a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 319 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, July the 4th. Happy Independence Day, America, 2026. My name is Jeremy Lee. Guys, tomorrow night here on the channel and streaming live to fanatics.live, I will be doing the weekly auction-ending watch party for Fanatics Collect. Come check that out over here on YouTube or on Fanatics Collect. Guys, Leighton Sheldon will be joining us a little bit later tonight, but he is always looking to purchase your vintage collections. He offers transparent and competitive valuation and payment. Would love to speak with you. You can reach Leighton at justcollect.com and auctionwire.ai. You can now receive a 60-day free trial with AuctionWire using promo code SCL. And they are offering and deploying new features all the time over at AuctionWire. I don't know if it's costing you guys any money yet to find more cards that they're bringing to you, but it's been helpful for me. Check out auctionwire.ai. And Mint Inc. still delivering the ultimate hobby experience in the greater Toronto area, from whatnot streams, auctions, grading, breaks, to full retail locations. They're buying collections 7 days a week. You can click the link in the video description below. Use promo code SCL5 for 5% off your first purchase. Shop online anytime with worldwide shipping. Mint Inc., where collecting comes to life. And guys, the Front Row Card Show is in Salt Lake City this weekend, July 4th and 5th. Their first show in Salt Lake with 250 tables. And then next weekend, July 11th and 12th, the Front Row Card Show is in the Seattle-Tacoma region with 480 tables. If you visit frontrowcardshow.com, you can see more show dates and locations. Guys, grading when you can get it, when you can do it. It's expensive. It ties up your time, your money, your assets, but you can get it right with Mr. Minty, offering a full line of 100% substance-free grading supplies, preparation, and evaluation services. Also, concierge drop-off and pickup services for PSA and BGS, all designed to help collectors save time and money in the expensive and timely grading process. You can meet Mr. Minty in person at Fanatics Fest, the West Coast Card Show, and the National upstairs in the new dealer section. For more information, go to mrminty.com. Save 25% off products using promo code SCL25. Happy collecting and keep it minty. And guys, Chronosio, that's Chronosio with a K. They have their hobby store program. You can give if you are a hobby store, you can give your customers an easy way to turn their collections into cash while creating a new revenue stream for your store. You can earn 10% commission on every bundle you sell. No inventory required. Chronosio will ship it directly to your customers, and you can help collectors scan, identify, and organize, sell their cards online using AI. The Cards to Cash regular bundle is $250. The Pro bundle is approximately $1,500. They include everything collectors need to quickly inventory and sell their trading cards online. You promote Cards to Cash in your store. Your customer purchases a bundle. Chronosio ships it directly to the customer. You earn a commission, no inventory, no fulfillment, no risk. If you are interested in becoming a reseller partner of Chronosio, contact Jonathan. Jonathan at chronosio.com. And guys, CIA Auctions, holy moly, what an auction this time over at Collector Investor Auctions. But their July auction is now live. It runs through Sunday, July the 12th. If you visit collectorinvestorauctions.com, you can register to bid and check out all the items in the latest auction. They do monthly auctions as well. But their July auction is now up and running. And guys, this episode is also brought to you by Upper Deck, Sport Card Expo, Inferno, Red Technologies, ComC, and Card Ladder. Visit the affiliate link below for Card Ladder. And save yourself a few bucks, I believe. And don't forget, this show is also available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow for free. And if you're enjoying the content, or even if you aren't, please leave a rating or review. And as always, a huge thank you to all of our loyal listeners and viewers. You are much appreciated. If you haven't yet subscribed, please take a moment and do so. And as always, your comments and your questions are in play tonight. Let's just bring out David Chase. No special show. He's blushing. Here he is, Mr. David Chase. Buddy, how are you?
Good. That was the worst welcome you've given me so far since I've ever been on the show, but that's okay, Jeremy.
I don't want to make you pinker than you already are. You know, I don't want you to blush even more than you already are blushing, David. I do that for you, buddy. I'm sorry.
It's this lighting, right? When I was away, did I look as pink as I am now? Yes.
I mean, don't make me answer tough questions right now, please. Okay?
God, that's so embarrassing. What's going on? How you doing, Jeremy?
You're back from Hawaii. How was the vacation, David? How was the trip home? Everything good? You happy to be back in the swing of things?
Yeah, I mean, am I happy to be back? It's nice to be back. It's nice to be sleeping in your own bed, but of course I miss being in Hawaii, but it's nice to get back into the swing of things. I did my last first couple of days of work, and man, it's hard to get back to like a normal job after being in a place like Hawaii, but I'm back and I get to be on Sports Cards Live, so life is good.
Let's do it. Well, let's start. We're going to go to the chat for a few comments over there. Then we got a few things we're going to get through, but hello to On Card Sports, Jacob Dahl, Ziggy No, Larry Gitlin says good evening. Hope everyone is having a great July the 4th. Sports Cards Live, better than fire. Oh, we'll take it. Very nice, Larry. Thank you so much, buddy. The Professor, good evening to you. Happy 4th and happy fireworks in DC delayed. Yeah, heard there's some weather there. Stukes, good evening to you. No shades tonight. That was the special Aloha episode. If anybody didn't see what Stukes is talking about, well, we had The Hangover episode 7. It dropped on Sports Card Clubhouse YouTube channel just here on Wednesday. And you can go see we were all wearing costumes, David. We were all wearing on theme costumes. Absolutely. Bill Betts, good evening to you. Confluence Sports Cards, Hodges, Laura, good evening, Laura. Hello, Yankees fan. Kinger, Mickey Mintle. Did you bring your banning paddle? What's up, Doug? Good evening to you. Nick Augusta, good evening. He says happy 4th of July and a belated happy Canada Day too. Yes, July the 1st was Canada Day. Thank you, Nicholas. Jeff Wills, good evening to you. Talked about a powerful speech today on how lucky we are living in America. Happy 4th. Where's Orlando? There's Orlando right there. Did Orlando leave a powerful speech on his YouTube channel today?
He did. I think it was on Hobby Hotline that he gave a really amazing speech about his family and about how lucky we are to live in America. So it was a very nice, powerful speech. Good job, Orlando.
Very nice. Ken Fickle, good evening to you. Stacked 5. Hello. Orlando says, truly appreciate you listening. Yeah, you can check that out. Where Hobby Hotline is on the For Collectors YouTube channel. Check it out right over there. It's called Spam Pink, says Confluence. Oh, Orlando says you got a Hawaiian vacation tan. David, did you get a tan? Is that suntan we're seeing there?
You know what? I'm not going to answer your questions. Everybody, we have a group chat and everyone makes fun of me for being pink. So I hear it all day long from all you guys.
What is up, Piccolino the Cat? We got Upstate Sports Cards. That is David. We got Jesse at Double O's Card Guy. What's going on, buddy? What is happening? We got Shaheen here with us. It's Ivor. Good. Hey, glad to have you back. There's Josh at 90s Auctions and Bob Boozle. What's up, Bob Boozle? All right, David. So listen, a couple of things. Let's just get a couple of things. First of all, I've been doing this exclusive content over at fanatics.live for a couple of weeks now. It's called The Hunt. And I've had people ask me, how do you watch it after the fact? So I want to show you guys how to find this. If anybody is curious, because you cannot find this content on YouTube or podcast, it is only on fanatics.live. So here's the Fanatics website, guys. This is simply, you can see in the URL bar, fanatics.live/home. If you go there, you can then, now I'm following myself, I guess, so you see me on the left-hand side there. But if you go to search shows and you simply type in Sports Cards Live, just like that, and you click on shops. I'm not a shop, but that's how they have it. There you go. Click on Sports Cards Live. Here it is. This is like my page on fanatics.live. And right here, replays. And these are the 3 shows that I've done so far over there. June 25th, this past Sunday, and just on Thursday. So you can go watch The Hunt, the first 2 episodes of The Hunt over there if you'd like. But that's how you find it. I hope that is helpful. It's very similar to find it on your phone. Basically the same way. So, David, do you think was that a good visual on how to find it or what?
It was good, but man, it's hard to find that show. I know. Jeremy's like, it's not that hard to find. I go, I don't know. I've been looking for 15 minutes on that website trying to find it. So come on, they need to make it a little bit easier, but I'm glad that you showed it that way. So hopefully we'll be able to find it. I'll just watch that 3 times while I'm looking for it this week, and I'll be able to find it easier. No worries.
You know, like anything, there's a bit of a learning curve to get to understand the process. Listen, I'll tell you guys one thing. The learning curve for me to use the new streaming platform called OBS, which is not StreamYard. It is way more technical. It has way more moving parts. That is a learning curve. Listen, I don't feel sorry for you if you can't find The Hunt on Fanatics.live. Try streaming it. That's a whole other challenge right there. Especially
do you think you're gonna like that straight? Like once you get good at it, do you think you're going to like it better than the one that you're currently using? Or
I know I will. It's a far superior platform than StreamYard. Far superior. It has way more capabilities. The only problem is the good thing about StreamYard, guys, which is the platform that like everybody uses in sports card live streaming. The nice thing about StreamYard is that all your guests, like whoever is on the panel, is in StreamYard. When you use this OBS thing, no one is in it except for you. You have to open up like a Zoom call or a Teams meeting, and then you capture those frames from there and bring them into OBS and push it out. It's a whole different thing. I'm going to be, when I do the premiere show with Adam Gray a couple Thursdays from now, that'll be my first time bringing a guest on in that platform, and we'll see how that goes. It's not going to be super. I'm with you, Bob Boozle. Don't hide Jeremy's show. Fanatics, I appreciate it. What's up, Chad Shipper? 1 week closer to the National. Cannot wait. Absolutely cannot wait. Bob Boozle's been avoiding people. Don't want explosive. Doesn't want to. Okay, Bob Boozle. But follow Bob Boozle on Instagram for some additional Boozle-flavored creativity. Okay. I also want to shout out Enter the Inferno. Guys, the deadline is come and gone to enter your tech business to the Enter the Inferno production team. And I believe we had 18 applicants, and 6 have now been chosen to go to like final interview, and then 3 will be chosen from there to be featured on the main stage at the National on Saturday, August the 1st it'll be right around 3 p.m. So if you're going to be at the National on Saturday, August 1st, come upstairs to the main stage. We are putting together what I think will be a pretty cool production. So hope to see a bunch of you guys there. The Hangover, David, we did episode 7, Aloha. That was a fun one. We did our show and tell. One card I have to share here, even though I shared it there. This beautiful, look at this Steve Yzerman patch I picked up. Local deal here on this. Look at that. 2005 Upper Deck Ultimate Collection. Steve Yzerman, premium patches out of 35. But look at that. That is like the button of the Red Wing wheel. An incredible card. Just had to share that one with you guys. Oh, also, if you haven't seen it on the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel, this past Monday, I had a conversation on here with Joe Hollywood. Check that out on the channel. And then this Monday, my discussion with Steve Taft will be dropping Monday here on the channel as well. So want to get one more little announcement. Oh, David. Oh, I'm so sorry to inconvenience you, David Chase. I'm so sorry. One more announcement, guys. If you have taken the assessment on the hobby spectrum and you have opted into the directory now, and this just it's the first time I'm mentioning this publicly. Oh, wait a second. It might not be deployed outside of beta, actually. Hold on. I got to go see if this is deployed publicly or not right now. Yeah. Oh, David's like having a ball with this, aren't you? It is public. Okay. So now I'm going to share the screen with you guys. Here we go. So here's the directory. We got 935 people on here. So if now when you go and you click on somebody's card, you get a little bar graph here, right up here. And that actually now shows you that the hobby spectrum, it identifies your core archetype, but now it also shows you to what extent you dip your toes into the adjacent archetypes. So for example, this particular person I called up randomly here, Jason's Cardboard Pastime, he's a nostalgic 21, 54% nostalgic. And you can see he's got some purist, he's got some precisionist, he's got some hybrid, and he's even got a bit of builder in his overall hobby spectrum, like identity profile. So it's been expanded so that now, because one of the feedback pieces that I received was there's more than 7 ways to approach the hobby. There's more than 7 motivation, mindset, and behavior mixes. There's not only 7 ways. Well, that makes complete sense to me. So we're trying to now illustrate a more complete profile for people who have responded who've taken the assessment and opted into the directory. You can see that you can also add players you collect, team sports, and of course all of your links. So I want to share that with you. Go check that out. Anyone who has not yet. Upstate says it's a great tool. Appreciate that. James Fertitta was Front Row Card Show in Salt Lake City, was terrific today. That's really good to hear. Bob Boozle, David Chase and I were actually talking earlier about this. We are now starting a collection agency where we will be collecting debt from people in the hobby who owe other people in the hobby. It's just me and David, no weapons, just our good looks and influence to get people to pay back their debt. So Bob, you can visit our website. It's called Jeremy and David collectyourhobbydebt.com, and we will try to find that money for you. Mike Double V says live from Calgary. It's Saturday night. What's up, Colin Murray? Good to see you. David, any opening comments before we get into our first topic?
I mean, the hangover was a pretty funny episode. I felt like after it was over, I felt like I was a little extra combative with you, Jeremy. So I felt like after we taped it, I had to apologize to you. So was I extra combative to you during that episode? What did you think?
All I would say is if you are not yet watching The Hangover, guys, and again, it does not live on the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. It lives over on the Sports Card Clubhouse, along with a ton of other phenomenal content over there, daily content over on Sports Card Clubhouse, by the way. So go make sure you're following that. But if you're not yet watching The Hangover over there, it is sort of like the weekly sequel to Sports Cards Live. And if you hang out, if you watch it to the very end, even past the outro, there may or may not be a little Easter egg there for you in the last couple episodes. And if I recall, I think I had to say, shut up, Chase, like 2 or 3 times last week. So there you go, David.
I think you cut it out of the regular episode, but you showed it at the end. But I know. I was feeling a little frisky with Joe next to me, I had a little extra umph in my step. So
power in numbers. It was 2 against 1 there, right? It was you and him versus me. You guys were sitting on the couch together in Hawaii. I'm sitting here in my house doing my thing. Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun episode. I did not feel that way, buddy. I didn't feel that way.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Well, here, let's see. Mookie says it was a very spicy hangover. The post-credit scenes were amazing. So was the dancing. Oh, that's why you might have been a little upset with me, David. I had you guys dancing.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. You did. I felt like we were your monkeys that you were like, dance, guys, dance. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But it was Jeremy likes to embarrass us, and we had to push back a little bit. Sometimes the other people have to push back at Jeremy just a little bit. We can do it a little. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Josh has seen it. I mean, he gets yelled at every episode for pushing back. So we have to do it every once in a while, too.
We are like a dysfunctional family who, every day we go to bed, we may be a little bit upset with each other, but when we wake up that next morning, it's like nothing ever happened, Totally. Exactly. Stooks here says, Jeremy and David are getting better looking every day. They're already into next week. I just want to say, Stooks, thanks for noticing. You're very observant. Very observant. Jim Define. Good evening, Sports Cards Live American Birthday Edition. Can't wait for this week's fireworks. Yes. Happy 4th of July to all of our American friends. Bobby Burrell, I must be missing something then. I don't know if he's talking about our looks or what, but If he's talking about our
We'll
looks,
pretend we don't understand that comment, Jeremy. Let's just pretend we don't get it.
we don't know what you're talking about, Bobby Brown. Oh, here, Orlando has a great suggestion. Next time, David wears a hula skirt.
Orlando.
I'll make sure that happens. Thank you very much.
God.
Thank you very much.
Orlando's been picking on me a lot, which I love. But come on, Orlando.
It's like a term of endearment when someone picks on you like that, David, right? It means that they're comfortable with you, you know?
I don't take offense at all. And I love Orlando. He's the OG of the hobby. So he knows that I got his back no matter what.
Oh, he knows. If you're watching on Instagram, come on over to YouTube. That is where the action is at. All right, David. So we talk about restoration is on the uprise right now, I believe. I'm seeing more and more of it. We've talked about it in the last couple of weeks. Obviously we know that there are companies in the space that their products are literally selling supplies that will help you perform restoration techniques on your cards. And Kurt's Card Care, for example, sells his spray. He's got his wax. He's got his drying tools, his rolling tools. And I haven't seen any of Kurt's content in quite some time, but I see other people talking about it when I'm seeing content, and I'm seeing how people are able to do work on their cards. They basically take their home operation, they turn it into a card spa, and they put the cards through all the services. They, go get the card mani, the card pedi, the card facial, the card massage. The cards are getting all these things done. And one thing we're noticing, both David and I are noticing, is that this restoration, these different, the amount of people performing restorative processes on their cards is jumping up in number, it seems, or at least those who are willing to talk about it publicly are driving up in number, and they're showing very proudly what they're doing. And I mean, we've thought about this pretty hard over the weeks, years, months, all that. And I wonder what the chat thinks, but I feel like there's two sides to this. There are the purists when it comes to their wanting untouched cards, and then there are the people that don't care. They just want their cards improved. I think there's two different segments, and I think that the segment that we're mostly you, me, David, and most of the people are in is leave our cards alone. We don't want our cards to go to the card spa. I don't want my cards to be molested like that, and I just don't. And I think we've taken for granted that we think that we are the majority. We think that we are right. We think that we have that we are correct, they are wrong, and that not only we are correct, but we're more ethical. We're almost above that other segment because we are more pure with what we want, how we want our cards treated or not treated. But I think we have to ask the question: these people doing the restorations are growing. Many times they're younger in many cases. Is that going to be the new majority, David? Is that going to be the group that kind of wins that war? Like you got the 84 stars versus the 86 fleers. That war has been brewing for a while. We got the restore, non-restore group, and never mind alteration. I mean, alteration, I think even restorers will draw the line at trimming, adding color back, adding paper back, these sorts of things. So, but restoration is very, very, it's on the rise, guys. We're going to show you some examples here. So, David, we got a lot of comments. I want to run through them. So let me do that, and then let's get your opening context, and then we'll get into some of the, is that okay? You can address these comments too if anything jumps out at you. By the way, Map35T, welcome to the show. Is the poorly registered shirt for sale, and do the proceeds go? Yeah, I noticed David's shirt too before. David, what is up with your poorly registered shirt? I love it.
Thank you. You know what? The guy who wrote the Leaf book, Brian Capel, he's a crazy artist, and I'm always in communication with him. And he one time gave me his website where he was showing me some of his artwork. And then he showed that he was selling a couple of shirts on there. And this was one of them. And then right after he sent it to me, I'm like, dude, I just ordered 2 of your shirts. I love them. So nice. This is Brian Capel. It's called Space Monkey Designs. So go support him. He's the guy who wrote the Leaf book that we all have read. So Yeah, thank you for noticing. It's a funny show.
What is up, Savoy? Bobby Bro says restoration is being talked about at every show openly. He's talking card shows there, I believe. Yeah, I mean, it's on the uprise, guys. Kinger says, my short interesting card I picked up from ComC at a fair number, a 79 Opeachy Ozzie Smith. Very nice, Kinger. Wish you could share a photo. Bob Boozle, 20-year-old bros don't restore rare artwork. Purists have high moral ground, says Boozle. Jeff Wills, Thomas Payne, give me restoration or give me death. Old school and hate it. Generous Traveler says trimming precursor to restoration. Trimming precursor to restoration. Isn't restoration a precursor to trimming? I don't know that I follow. Generous, let me know what you think. I'm not sure I follow that. Hi, Pop Professor says, I've come to terms with the fact that there are likely a number of slab cards in my collection that have been restored and simply not detected by PSA. Yeah. I don't think we can trust any grading company to detect every occurrence of restoration. I think that would be silly for us to expect that at this point. Stuke says it sounds like CGC is going to get into grading restored cards as restored cards. I love that, by the way. I love that idea. It helps protect those who don't want restored cards. He said currently PSA calls them trimmed, altered. Blue Jacket did a video on his Cracker Jack Jackson that was restored. Jim says it's a restoration sensation, very divisive topic, similar to cosmetic surgery. Is it okay or is it disingenuous? Very interesting. Card Tell says people aren't talking about Kurt. They're talking about Pokemaster Center, who just recently this past month held a card conservation convention in Las Vegas. He has repacked, repainted cards and is banned at PSA. Yeah, I've heard about that, but that's not. But Cartel, I mean, they are talking about other things too, not just Poke Center Master, and we have examples of that too. So it's not just that. And Generous says, I meant trimming blew up a few years ago. Now we're talking about restoration. Trimming's been around since the beginning of time. I don't think it just blew up a few years ago, Generous Travelers. Trimming's been talked about for decades, as far as I remember. I mean, I've known about trimming since the 80s, personally. So I don't know what you mean, but thank you for the comment nonetheless. Okay, David, your initial comments.
All right. So the way that I've been thinking about this is about a month ago, I was watching a video on non-sports vintage, and they were talking about scrapbooking with these stickers or cards that they showed. And they made like just a one-off comment. They said, you know, this is like in the sports cards hobby where the T206 cards, so many of them were in scrapbooks, and it's totally fine in the card community to soak these cards to get the scrapbook off. And I was like, what? I go, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. But then since then, I have been noticing all over social media that people are showing these cards that had scrapbook damage or card that's a paper that's on the card, and they're showing that it's off, and they are being totally transparent about it and even kind of proud. And when I read the comments, it's like 90% positive and 10% negative. So the reason why I thought that this was super interesting was because Jeremy and I have always been thinking like this 100%. This is the taboo thing. You can't do this to cards. But I feel like that it is growing in the community of acceptance. And are we looking at this in an old school lens, or are we right? Are we wrong? I just think there's so many different ways to go about this. And I just do know that I'm seeing it be more transparent now than it ever has been.
Yeah.
For what that's worth.
Me too, man. And I mean, thank you for bringing a lot of these examples to my attention. I get a text message from David just about every 90 minutes throughout the week with, hey, did you see this? Did you see? And yeah, I mean, I want to bring up a comment from Stephen Lane here. He says, I agree with your pops and comps position. He's referring, of course, to my book available on Amazon, Pops and Comps. He says, I agree with your position in Pops and Comps that undisclosed treatments might result in future rejection, downgrade, or loss of trust. P.S. Great book. I'm from your book. Well, I'm glad you found me through the book, Stephen Lane. And I stand by that position from the book, which is quite simply that it's not only what might happen with your your restored cards at the grading company, but it's, I think what people are, and actually, I'm gonna actually give this attribution to the next comment. E105 says what I'm about to say. He says people who restore cards are not submitting them for authentic altered holders. They're doing it in hopes the cards will receive straight grades as though the restoration never happened. He says it is fraud. Completely agree. They are not doing it because they want to put them in a holder that says restored. Although I do like that. I do like that movement, and I'll explain that in a second. They're trying to get one past the grading companies and past the future owners. But let's add a layer. Even if they are being, let's say you restore a card, send it into PSA, it comes back as a PSA 6, whatever, just a straight grade card. Now you have that card. You know that you restored it. You know that that PSA would not have put it in that holder had you been on the up and up with them, had you been honest with them and not tried to deceive them. If you did not really create PSA fraud, which is what these people, it's like PSA. I don't know if it's legal fraud. It's definitely PSA fraud because it's against their terms and conditions. So, but the problem then is they then pass that card off to somebody else without saying a word, or they do say, hey, by the way, I restored this card. I gave it, I dunked it in the juice. It went to the spa. I massaged it for 20 minutes with Kurt's, crease correction tool, whatever it is. And then someone buys it. And then they think to themselves, okay, well, maybe I don't need to be as transparent as that guy was. So I can take it and I can sell it. And now the story's gone. So it is, it just depends on who owns it after you. And I agree with E105 here completely. A couple more comments. Mickey Mintle says cleaning isn't restoration or alteration if it leaves no residue and doesn't change the card. In that case, it's just cleaning. So what about cleaning by dunking it in a solution, whether that solution is distilled water or distilled water with a little bit of alcohol? I've seen that comment out there. Or dunking it in Sprite, because Sprite is something I don't know. I'm guessing at that. Guys, I've said this to me and David have talked at length about this, and my position is as follows on cleaning a card. I'm okay with rubbing off a fingerprint. I'm even okay with removing wax from a card with like a pantyhose or something like that. Like that does good. And when I say I'm okay with it, I mean those cards would be welcome into my collection. If they were graded and they had gone through that, I don't mind that for my collection. But what I don't want is my card to literally go into the hot tub and go for that spa treatment. I just don't want that. But if I don't know, then what's the difference? Well, here's where I think the difference might be, and I'm no chemist, so I might be totally wrong. But this is my official position. If whatever you're doing to the card changes the anatomy of the card at the molecular level, if anything changes at the molecular level by being added or removed, whether you can see it with a human eye or not, or even under microscope or not, that to me is alteration. Now, I don't know. Water is made up of chemicals. Even filtered water is not it's not just H2O. I don't think. Again, I'm no chemist. But if you're dunking it in a solution and any change to the molecules, the atoms of that cardboard and the ink, the ink within it changes, you've now altered the card in my mind. You've done more than just cleaning it. You have gone and altered it as well. And I don't know if by cleaning it, do any of the ink molecules leave the card with that water? I mean, I would think so, but again, I am no chemist. I'm no printing specialist. So that's my official position. If the molecular anatomy makeup of the card is unaffected, then I'm probably okay. I'd rather not still, but I don't know if someone were to say to me, hey, that Jackie rookie of yours, Jeremy, that 48-leaf Jackie of yours, it went for the old swim, but the molecular makeup didn't change at all. I'd be like, all right. If it didn't change, I'm not going to go sell this card because I'm mad about it. I'll probably just keep it. But if any of the ink exited in that process, if any of the fibers exited in that process, if any molecular change occurred, now to me, that is altered. So Mickey Mintle uses the word cleaning here. It's not this Mickey Mintle, great new part of our community here. But this comment is just too general. It does not say enough to me. But he does, I guess he does say leaves no residue and doesn't change the card. Well, I just want to be clear. By not changing the card, I'm talking about at the level that we can't even see. Let me keep, go ahead, David. Yeah.
All right. So first of all, we all have to remember, Jeremy and my mindset has been always that you can't do anything to a card. Okay. What I'm starting to just see in the hobby is that it's getting more accepted, and I'm trying to figure out why it's getting more accepted. And if I'm trying to see within myself, am I being I'm trying to open my mind by just having discussions. Okay. So I don't mean anybody to think that we're trying to say this is okay or not okay. We are just trying to further the discussion, and it doesn't have to be a hidden topic. Okay. To have these kind of conversations. So the thing that I've been kind of talking to Jeremy about and just thinking out loud is like, let's go like one thing at a time, because obviously trimming, I can't think of something worse. Right. But let's just talk about having a scrapbook paper ad onto a card. Okay. Is it, I've always thought that doing anything to it would be negative, but actually the scrapbook is also altering the card, right? It is adding paper on there. If there was a way to, put it in a bath sounds terrible to me, right? It makes me like, when I think of it, it makes me like, oh my God, I don't want my card to be soaked. But how about if it was like sprayed a couple of times with water and it was somehow able to be taken off? I don't even know if that would work or not. I'm just trying to think out loud. If it doesn't change the molecular part of the card, and if PSA doesn't know and nobody else would ever know, is that something that we should die on? Is that something that should be so negative? I'm just thinking out loud, Jeremy. If it doesn't change the molecular part of the card, do you think that you're open to possibly thinking that it's not the worst thing in the world to spray a card or something? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't change the molecular makeup of the card, and like, I also think about like honest wear and honest alteration versus dishonest alteration. Honest alteration, kids playing with their cards in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. That's honest. Kids putting a thumbtack and corking it to their wall. That's honest. Even a kid, trimming their card to make it fit in their book. I mean, they're not doing it to deceive anybody. It's pure innocence. So I'm okay with those things. I don't necessarily want to own those cards, but I have no issue with that. I do have issue with trying to make that card get back to normal. I have an issue with trying to reverse the honest alteration, those first instances of alteration, rubbing out creases, flat, adding paper back to corners, whatever it might be. Those sorts of things. I don't want the honest alteration to be reversed. I'm sort of like thinking, are there any exceptions to that? And we might need to talk that through a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, if it's just sprayed with water, doesn't change the card. I mean, I would never do it. I would never knowingly buy a card that even had that done. I don't want to be buying cards from people that do that. So I wouldn't. But if you told me that the card I've owned for a while went through that process, I'm probably not going to kick that card to the curb if it still looks good and the molecular makeup didn't change. So,
and I just want to say, part of this ended up getting brought up between Jeremy and I in our conversation this week was because I saw a card on Facebook that had a huge write-up, and I read like half the write-up, and I started like asking about it. And it was an expensive card, and it's a card that is a card that a lot of time we're in scrapbooks. So a lot of times has a paper ad onto the back of the card. And as I started communicating with the seller, they were explaining to me, and I was asking them about price and about how you received the card and that it was out of the slab. And what he told me was he ended up taking it out of a PSA 1, showed me the PSA 1 slab, was actually going to have it autographed by the person who was on the card. And he said that he took off the back residue from the card. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he goes, oh, like read the rest of that write-up. And he actually explains it all in the write-up for the card, saying that he took off the back, and then he actually on like picture 7 and 8 showed that he had the scrapbook on it, and then he took it off after. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, this is, first of all, I just thought it was crazy that you were just saying it and not hiding it. And number two, he was bringing it up to me for a second time during our conversation. And then I told him, you know what? I'm actually not very comfortable having a card that had this treatment to it. And he was like kind of shocked. He was like, really? Like, why would you think that way when it didn't change anything about the card? The card looks even better now. And I just said, you know what? I'm just uncomfortable. And then I thought to my mind, this is a great topic to talk to Jeremy about, because he was so open. And we keep saying, like, you know what, these guys are like doing things shady. And I started talking to this guy and asking him more questions. He doesn't want to show the card because it is something that might get graded and it could get flagged. But he only has been doing this for his own cards in his collection. And he's done it to about 10 or 11 cards. And this is the first time he's ever trying to sell one. So he's been doing it for his own cards, for his own collection. And then he had one that he was selling, and he was being transparent about it. So it's like, that's always my issue. It's like, we're doing this and it's shady, but like, he wasn't being shady about it, but he was doing it. He was altering it. And it just brought up a lot of weird feelings for me. And I said no to the card because I knew the reason for it. But it also shows me that I probably have a lot of cards that have this soaking or bathing that I would have no idea, right? Because I did think it does look better than how he originally had it.
Well, yeah, these guys do in many cases may improve on cards. Oh man, this is the hot topic in the chat. So we're going to run through a bunch more comments here, David. Then we're going to look at some examples. So thank you to Stephen Lane, Card Tell already. Chris from Missouri says, I am not near against this as I once was. I mean, I don't think you're alone, Chris. Ziggy No says favorable grades, not accurate grades. The hobby isn't a science. It isn't a religion it's a religion graded by wizards. I think you're right, Ziggy, because I guess I might have said, yeah, favorable grades. The hobby wants favorable, not accurate. Absolutely. Bobby says that the professionals are getting things past the professionals. Great card graders versus fixers. Yep. Jeff Wills, the hobby will lose if we allow restoration. The flaws and quirks are what makes the hobby great. Well, we are losing that battle right now, Jeff, I think. Pastor Craig says, since eye appeal is now king and the push for NBA stickers, many will be tempted to clean/restore to pump up the value. Yep. Zach Pierce says, we shouldn't in any way downplay restoring cards. It's wrong. Well, we think it's wrong. We do. I do. David does. Zach Pierce does. There's a contingent out there, a growing contingent that does not think it's wrong. Who's right? I think I'm right, David. I'll rephrase. I'm right for me. I'm right for myself. I'm not right for people who think it isn't. And anyway, that's just Mickey Mintle. Cleaning a card could be considered maintenance, not restoration or alteration, as long as it doesn't change the card. Maintenance, interesting, ripple to put into this. Good evening, Jeff Hart, Patriot Sports Cards. Mecca says it's wrong if you try and profit, but if you do it for yourself, who cares? Well, who cares? Future owners who don't know that you did it for yourself might care. That's the problem with it. Mickey Mintle says a full bath can change a card's shape by swelling the paper fibers, even if it dries flat. Right there. I'm no chemist. Mickey Mintle might be a bit more of a chemist than I am. And right there, that's an issue. Swelling the paper fibers, you guys. I do not want my paper fibers swelled. Is that okay? Is that okay with the restorers out there? I don't want my paper fibers swelled. Jeff says the scrapbook example is an interesting one. Paper stock that doesn't belong to the original stock, but are able to remove it. This is a tough one. It went in. It was honest alteration to add that, the glue to put it in your scrapbook album, and now you take it out. It's a good time. Let's show the picture of the Tito 6, David. I'm going to share this picture right now, guys. Have a look at this. You guys, let me just take the comment off the screen. Have a look at this. But this is the before and the after of the cards that David was just talking about. Oh, wait a second. I want to get that comment off. There we go. Before on the left here. There I am. David, you can get yourself in the window. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. There's the before, and this is the same card. It was hard to tell that it was actually the same card, but I'm pretty certain it is, and it looks so much better on the right. It looks like it's almost, David, doesn't this look almost like a miracle fix here?
It is a miracle. I mean, that is like the most unbelievable fixing. And this is a Facebook post where a guy was showing and asking what people's thoughts were on soaking a card.
Guys, so right now, David is leaning to the wrong side of his screen.
I am?
I
can see myself. Is it better over here?
Come a little bit. There he is. There he is. Okay. Yeah.
That's so funny because I'm mirrored on my screen. So sorry. Okay. So this was like a Facebook posting where the guy basically just said he had 70 comments and like 100 hearts on this Facebook post that he was just saying, I soaked a card. Let me show you guys and let me know what you think ethically. And I am telling you, 95% of the comments were positive. And it shocked me. Okay. This is why this topic is happening, is because we both look at this card and this is unbelievable. I mean, it looks like it's fake, the difference between these two sides. But if somebody who can soak can do something like this, and it must be like a paper ad that just looks very weird on the one on the left. I mean, man, it's hard to go against this when not to repair things, but to take away paper. I'm closer to understanding it than I was a year ago. Even though I'm still against it, I'm just trying to find my way because you're not adding anything to the card. You're removing to bring it to its original state. Now, I don't know. Does this change the molecular structure of the card? If it does, I agree with you, Jeremy. But I don't know if we know that. And I know PSA doesn't know that because they can't tell. We know that they are not able to figure out if a card is soaked or not these days. So what's your thought, Jeremy, on this?
Well, it comes back to the exact same thing as before. Like, how did this card get cleaned up? Did it go for a bath? I think this card got the soak. It went to the spa. It went in. It was fully immersed in the tub. Those fibers are swelling. The fibers are swollen. We have
You're taking one person. Rule. You don't know if that's true.
I'm gonna trust Mickey Mintle, who is probably. I'm certainly no chemist. I haven't taken chemistry since grade 11, so I'm gonna think that he is a bit more of a chemist than I am. Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but yeah, I mean, listen, this card is the after is beautiful. So, in a way, I'm going to take that off the screen now. In a way, I feel like, and this is the unpopular take, but I feel like it's like that card got saved, which is a nice thing. It's good for that card. That card is getting a second lease on life, or an upgraded lease on life. I mean, someone might have enjoyed it with that scrapbook paper on the back. If you could have got that scrapbook paper off the back of it without having to swell the fibers, I'm all in. I mean, I'm all in. I'd be okay with it. I would be okay with having that in my collection. But once you swell those fibers, count me out for wanting that card in my collection, or that card being welcome into my collection. So Mickey Mental says, looks swollen to me. Okay. We have our featured guest, Robert, in the back. Robert, give me a few minutes still, buddy. Thank you. We are running a little bit behind, so I want to go through a whole bunch of comments that have come in. David, I'm going to run through these. Let me get through all of them, and then we'll have a wrap up. Robert, we want your thoughts on this when you come out, buddy. So get ready to share your thoughts on all this. But to get back to Phoenix says, does anyone like altering cards? Does anyone like altering cards that plans to keep the card? Hard to imagine it's anything other than about profits. I think that there are people who literally do it for their own collection. So I don't think it's all about profits, Phoenix. I've heard those stories. I've seen those stories being told. It's hard to argue with that, except what happens after future owners. That's my concern there. Not Yelia says, could not a card become altered at a molecular level through normal wear and tear? By ownership, for example, you spill some liquid on a card, the oils in your fingers change the fabric of the card. Yeah, got me on that one. Not yell yet, but I come back to that distinction that I have between honest alteration of the chemical makeup versus dishonest. So I'm okay with owning cards where someone touched it in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s, or whatever, and left a bit of their, skin oil on the card. And if that's going to change it, yeah, I'm okay with that. Ziggy No says soaking a card in water and drying it to press out dents. Is that okay? No chemicals. I don't know. Comes back to what we said. Plus, water is composed of chemicals. As far as I know, hydrogen and oxygen fall on that periodic table of elements. So water is sort of a chemical. Correct me if I'm wrong there, guys. What's up, Phil, the loud collector, with a tip to the super chat. Appreciate it. And no, you will not see me next weekend. I will not be at the Halifax Expo. A Cure for the Itch says, I think it's being accepted because it is making people more money. People doing this don't care about sending a card to a good home. They care about increasing their profit. Yes, I think that many do. Again, there is that cohort that is doing it just for their own collection. But I think that if you're doing it and grading them, like, let's say you're doing it for your own collection, you're still committing PSA fraud. If you're sending them to PSA, if you're just doing it, keeping them raw, I mean, I can't really argue with your right to do that. Just, I have a concern when it gets sold or your estate grades them and it gets through. Mickey Mintle says, do we have a responsibility to clean a filthy card? That's what I was talking about just before, right? We're saving some of these cards. Jeff says, that kid who put a 52 tops Mickey Mantle on his bike spokes is history. And we shouldn't try to cover that up. If every 52 mantle is a 10, then what are we doing? I love that. That's right. I want those original loving alterations to remain. That's the story of the card, but that's just me. Orlando says, I just want my cards in their natural state. If it's cleaned or altered, it should be disclosed. Agreed. Ziggy says, are there bounties for turning in card spas, like being a narc kind of thing, being a snitch on them and reporting them to the grading companies, maybe? Is there a bounty? I've never heard of a bounty for that, Ziggy, but I wouldn't be surprised if we heard of one. David Cooey, good evening to you. Just finished lighting off some boomers over here in Muskegon, Michigan. Tuned in. Welcome to the show, David. Good to see you. And Mookie says, my friend uses his wife's pantyhose to take wax off his cards. Not a big deal, except he insists on using his feet. Okay, Mookie. That's the Mookie Boozle, right? That's a Mookie Boozle comment. Okay, David, over to you.
Yeah, is it the same person? We'll never know. I mean, you say we want this to be in its original state. Well, then nobody should ever wipe their card clean with a cloth, right? So there are exceptions to the rule. I'm saying that to be extreme, okay? If there's a little piece of dirt on there and you use a microfiber cloth, you are taking away from that 1952 kid that had it in their bike spoke that put a little dirt on there. So there are some times that we want to get a little bit off. That doesn't change the property of the card, right? I understand all that. In my opinion, here's the biggest problem. Grading companies cannot tell, okay? At least with some of these versions. I don't know, some versions maybe they can and some they can't, but it seems like there's enough people out there that are doing this that the grading companies and us, we can't tell most of the time when this happens. And I'll tell you, I don't know if PSA cares, and I'll tell you why. Okay, Greg and I on Midlife Card Chase on the Sports Cards Clubhouse a month ago, our largest watched episode we ever did, we ended up showing a 59 mantle, and he showed me two of them next to each other. We compared it, and it was a surprise to figure out that it was the same card, and one of them was cleaned versus the other. And it was a very damning video to be able to see. It's 100% the same card. We looked at it, you could see the back and find out everything on there. Greg felt that it was his duty to contact PSA and actually was in contact with Ryan Hoge, the president of PSA, and they communicated about it. Ryan said, thank you for giving me this information. It's going to be looked at. We're going to do that. I thought that this certification was going to be decertified within days. It's been 30 days. They've had this information and they haven't decertified it. So does PSA even care? I mean, that's the question. They have the information on a card that they know 100% was soaked and was cleaned, and they didn't decertify it. I remember like months ago when we used to have this conversation, and there was like always hobby news where somebody would like post, look at the card I soaked, and PSA would decertify it right away. I remember hearing that back in the day. So maybe PSA doesn't care right now either. So it's very odd how this is all happening. And I think that the mindset is changing in the hobby. I'm not saying that's for the good. I'm just saying that I think that it's being more accepted. And the reason why I think it's being more accepted is because I think we can't tell. We cannot tell the difference on a lot of times that this happens. I think sometimes you can tell. I send Jeremy cards all the time. I'm like, do you think this was cleaned? But I think that there's different levels of how good people are at doing this.
Apparently, that's where we're at right now. There are different skill levels. Stukes here says, ever smell cards from a smoker's house? Yeah, it's disgusting. But you know what? Once they're slabbed, you might not be able to smell them anymore. So that's the odor proof. And then Colin Murray says, Kurt Card Care's site says they are the only federally approved card spray. 100% evaporates, nothing left on the card as of June 15, 2026.
Federally approved by what?
Who knows? But if it 100% evaporates and it didn't change the molecular structure, I don't know. Maybe if all you're doing is cleaning it to clean up the finger oils, a bit of dirt, whatever else, some dry dust, that kind of thing. Is that maintenance? Is it restoration? Is it alteration? I don't know. Okay. Lots of comments, guys. Thank you, everybody. Let's bring on our featured guest now, okay? We're going to bring on, his name is Robert Rothenberg, collector, local, been watching the show here for a while. We're going to learn a bit about Robert, but we're going to bring him on, and we're going to get right into and hear Robert's thoughts. So, Robert, I caution you. This is a sensitive topic here, and govern yourself accordingly, I suppose. But are you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready, Robert. All right, guys. Please welcome Robert Rothenberg for the first time ever to Sports Cards Live. Robert, hello. Please say hello to David. David, please say hello to Robert.
David, pleasure meeting you. Jeremy, appreciate you having me on the show. It's an honor. And love to dive into the topic as well, because I think I might have a couple of things to add firsthand experience on the topic, and not firsthand from being somebody who does this. I've never done it, never will do it. But I was going through the post on one of the Facebook groups, the identical one that you are featuring or talking about, and read all the comments on it with a lot of interest, because I actually have cards to pick up from the post office from the poster of this cleaning. So I've actually bought cards from this individual that are sitting in my collection today. So I don't know if any of them have been altered, or some of the comments in the Facebook group where they said that the cards were unaltered because they had been altered initially with the glue and the paper being put on, and all that was being done was having the cards unaltered and brought back to their original state, which was the discussion there. So I do have some firsthand experience, fortunately or unfortunately, based on this. So now, of course, I have to go back to my cards and determine what it is I'm going to do here. So, it creates an interesting dilemma. And I was going through this literally this morning as I was reading the comments on the Facebook group, going, wow, I have 3 cards that literally haven't hit my possession, that I bought directly from the individual a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow. What a coincidence. Because Robert you had no idea what we were talking about tonight. You didn't, unless you read the description in the video, saw the title of this episode, but that's a big coincidence. And the other thing is that I have that whole post. I'm going to share the post now with you guys so everyone can see what Robert's talking about. And so here's the actual post. This is in the group called T206 Collectors and Other Pre-War Buy, Sell, Trade. The author of this post is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Bedine, or Bedine, GEOFF BEDINE. So I'll read the post just so everyone listening on podcasts can hear it. And it says, soaking, received. Okay, soaking is the first word, question mark. Received this card with some paper transfer. soaked in distilled water for about 10 minutes to remove the paper transfer. I am sure some of you think this is alteration, but to me, it is simply removing simply removing what should not be there with minimal intervention. Would love to hear everyone's opinion. Well, there are 60 comments, and I have them all expanded and ready to go. So these are the comments that Robert was talking about, and why I said at the top of this show that we're seeing more and more acceptance of this. It's not me making this up. It's right here in a major T206 group with people talking about it. Some examples. John Drahota says, I have zero problem with soaking to try and remove a stain or added paper. Chris Gooden says, great work. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. Bruno Pino says, that's called restoration. Don't know if he's for it or against it. Taylor Wildsmith says, love it. Barry Upbin says, I just Googled soaking. Bad idea. David Brooks says, how so? And Barry Upbin replies, it's not coming through for me quick enough. So I don't know what he said. Great work. Nothing wrong with this from AJ Sinker. Some more comments there just about the front. Mark Peters says, I did this last night. And look at that. Here's another example of a card with paper. And here it is after. It's small, but you can see these. Wow, amazing, says the author of the post. Someone else is doing this as well. Here's one. Kyle Mortimer says, nothing wrong with it as long as it's done correctly. I've done it on plenty of cards. If they do restoration on $100,000 and $1 million artwork, which involves adding chemicals, and they soak old important documents for registration as well, why should cards be any different? Jeff Bedine agrees chemicals will also earn you an alteration grade. A response, yeah, I mean, I've used distilled water mixed with other things and never received an altered grade. As long as you're only cleaning a card and not bleaching or altering it, I have no issue. So, and more like that. I'm not going to read all these comments. You guys can maybe go find this yourself. You have to join this group to read this post and all of the comments. But as you can see, there are more and more, lots of long comments here, guys. So Robert, that's what you read, all those comments. And, am I right is my assessment? And David, the question goes to you too. We'll start with Robert though. Like, are you guys also starting to think that like the purists among us, we might start to be outnumbered over time here? Robert, what do you think?
I'm going to say yes. I think, especially when you start looking at who is commenting on the altering, because I've had some firsthand experience with some of the individuals and know that they have ratings on eBay in the tens of thousands. So they've sold tens of thousands of cards. I know that they're set up at the National and they're big time dealers. And some of them that are commenting are admins on that Facebook group. So you're not looking at rookie collectors. I'm going to put myself in the rookie collector camp based on the experience of most of your listeners. But the people that are commenting and actually doing the altering, and you can debate whether it's altering or not, but they've been in the business for decades and are buying vintage collections in droves and reselling the cards. And obviously they're buying a lot of cards that are either ungraded or they're ones or twos and getting them bumped up to fives and sixes, which is a massive uplift in valuation there. So I have to think, because I'm buying mid-grade T206s. Most of my cards are in the PSA 5 range. I have to guess that a good chunk of those have been altered in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, I think we have to be more and more aware and conscious of that. David Chase.
Yeah, the thing that is the biggest surprise to me about this post is how many people were not against it. And when I first saw that post, I expected there to be a lot of people that were going to be very against that response. And when I read the comments, it shocked me the same way as Robert did. I started looking at each person who was commenting, and a lot of them are big sellers. A lot of them are big sellers on Facebook and on eBay, and not just the people that commented. Then what I did is I looked at the people that liked or hearted the comment. And I'll tell you, the largest national dealers hearded this comment. Okay. So, and I know at least 3 of huge national dealers that will be at the national hearded that comment. So what does that even say, right? That this is asking is soaking okay. And I just think that a lot of dealers are doing this. I think that there are a lot of people that are doing it. And I think that our eyes are opening to it. And we can either close our eyes and pretend that we don't see it, or we can try to figure this out and understand it. And I don't know if we are still against it or not. I'm still trying to comprehend it because I've been against it my entire life. And now I'm just kind of thinking in my mind, if PSA cannot tell the difference, and just like Robert, I think a lot of my cards have probably been through a treatment, and the ones that I cannot tell, should I care? I'm trying to figure that out myself.
Should, because we have cards in our collections that have been through it that we don't know about. So again, if you don't know, I don't like to think that way, but I think being realistic, we have to. Jeff Wilzo says PSA better care, otherwise pop count means nothing and values collapse. Or pop counts mean that you have to understand what's in those pop counts, and do values collapse? Maybe, maybe not. Just depends. I don't know. Mookie Chilson says PSA has bigger backlogs to fry. I was going to say that too about that 59 Topps mantle, David. They may not have gotten to it yet. So to say PSA doesn't care because of that one example, who knows why they haven't got to it yet. They might get to it, but we'll have to see. I hope I want them to care. I'm going to default that PSA does care but if half of the hobby doesn't care, then only half of PSA has to care. Again, I don't know. Yankees fan says, welcome, Robert. There's a voice made for radio. David Cooey says, Jeremy, you hate it because you're a truest of true collector. These card restorers, their brains don't function properly like yours and mine. They are false, fake collectors, ruining it for many. Well, I think that we just have to understand the environment, the landscape of the hobby, and we have to react accordingly. Let's not let's not play victim here, guys. We can talk about it, but no one's chasing me out of the hobby. I'll tell you that much. I will find a way to make it work for myself. Wickerman says distilled water does not have chemicals, but I agree. Speaking the card could make the fibers bigger. All right. The only Mercus here said, if someone marks a card with a pen or pencil, are they not altering the card? Yes, I think they are. That was me answering. He goes on to say, then if I remove that pen or pencil, wouldn't that be unaltering the card? And David and I had that exact discussion, and I said, I don't think so. No, I don't think that's like saying 2 wrongs make a right. I don't think that's the case. I think you have the first instance of honest alteration. A kid puts his pencil mark on his initials on the back of the card, so at recess he knows which is his. That is the honest alteration, but it's alteration. And then 50 years later, somebody in this Facebook group, one of these guys comes along and removes that pencil. I think they've altered the honest alteration. So to me, it's a brand new case. To me, it's a new thing to consider. But then I think, well, removing the paper from the back of those T206s makes the card look so much better. So I'm not sure how I reconcile these two things still, David.
And with that pencil comment, I know Joe, he made a comment about this, that he, at one point when he was a child, he put a little mark on a pencil on one of his cards, and he actually erased it later on. And is that altering if you're just literally erasing a small pencil mark from the back of a card also, right? There's so many layers to this, right? Mm-hmm. And we're so rigid in our thinking, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud, is that the craziest thing in the world? If there was a small pencil mark on the card, and if you took an eraser and tried to erase it, is that like the most taboo thing in the world? To me, there's different layers of alteration, you know?
Yeah. I mean, erasing off a pencil mark, removing it by I don't think I'd have a problem with that. Having a card in my collection that had a pencil mark erased with an eraser, dunking it or giving it the spa, I have more of an issue with. Where do you fall, Robert, on that discussion?
Well, So I'm thinking off the get-go that the assumption has to be when you're looking at buying a card now that it's probably gone through an alteration phase if it has a medium to high grade, especially on vintage. Especially with the people that are doing it, and you have to assume every time you're doing something to the card, it's a different alteration. Because if you are erasing it, it's another form of alteration. It's not going through an unalteration process. You're leaving a different type of mark on the card itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it that way. I see it that way as well, Robert. The sports card professor says it seems it is all about understanding covalent versus non-covalent bonds. That's why he is the professor. Yankees fan says usually when I get in water, I get shrinkage, not swollen. And RJM says, is it wrong for antique car collectors to wax or polish their cars? I mean, it's a completely different thing. It's like, should I not be mowing my lawn? Like, is it wrong to alter my lawn by mowing my lawn? Should I not take my car through the car wash? I'm just gonna. Well, that comment is, I think, so kind of far fetched and just doesn't make any logical sense of the discussion that we'll just move on from it. Sorry, RJM. I don't mean to say, but I mean, I hope we understand that this comment has no application to this discussion. But if you want to talk about comic books or other ephemera, we're talking about ephemera here. We're not talking about steel. It's a big difference there, I think, as well. Okay, and then Stukes here said, I've seen grading companies detect the erasing and mark it on the flip as probably as MK, as mark or something like that. So, and Savoy here says, too many variables, cards would have to invent too many acronyms for qualifiers at this point. And RGM says, I'm about as much of a hobby purist as there is. I think there's a distinct difference between cleaning and altering. Okay, so what is cleaning? We haven't defined cleaning yet, and we're trying to come up with that. You can't just say I'm okay with cleaning. Are you okay? Like, what is, you have to, I believe, to have your comment become part of the discussion tonight, you can't just say I'm okay with cleaning, I'm okay with alteration, I'm okay with restoration. You have to talk about the process. What are you doing? What are you doing to clean it? I clean my card. I put it in the dishwasher with my cleaned it. We need more detail as to what it is that people are actually okay with. Okay, guys, let's table this discussion for now. We can come back to it in the final segment of the night if we want. But I know it's a good one. We had a couple of other. No, we're not going to leave it quite yet, guys. I got two other examples I want to share with you that David brought to me. So, Robert, get ready to get your thoughts in on these and have a good look at your screen. So, right here, we have a George Mikan 48 Bowman rookie card, slabbed by SGC as authentic evidence of trimming. Now, David, since you brought this card and the next one to my attention, why don't you tell the story? What is it that has you? What are you thinking about when you look at this card? Do we have any? Is it the fact that there's evidence of trimming, or is there something else going on with this card?
To me, this looks like a card was cleaned poorly. I think that this looks like the card was brushed and tried to be cleaned, and the top half looks like they stopped halfway through the process. This doesn't look very natural to me of wear when I see something like this. Now, I guess maybe coffee was spilled on the first half, but I feel like there is something going on here with the cleaning process that we are able to tell. So I think that sometimes people who are cleaning cards are doing it well, and some of them are not. This, to me, is one that jumps out. Like, the second I looked at it, I thought to myself, this looks like a card that was cleaned that they made a mistake on. What are your two thoughts on that?
What do you think, Robert? Have you by chance seen this card before? And I think what David's talking, it might be hard to see, but there is a distinct separation in color right at about like his right through the center of the card, almost, or above center. It looks to be, the surface looks to have a lot more wear than the bottom half of the card does. So I think what David is talking about, the top half, maybe they cleaned the top half, realized they were ruining the surface and stopped at the bottom. there could be other explanations for this, but is that correct, David? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like it was like brushed or something, and it like they scraped it or something. I don't know. Sometimes I'm seeing a lot of cards these days that have these weird marks that to me look like brush strokes. And to me, I'm noticing more and more of these cards coming up for sale, and I'm noticing them. And sometimes I'm seeing very nice cards that has like one quick brush stroke on them. And I'm just wondering, is this part of the cleaning that this is happening for? I don't know if it is or not, but it makes me wonder because I'm seeing a lot more cards that have these kind of issues than I have previously.
Robert, any thoughts on this one, or should we look at the next one first? Totally up to you.
So yeah, it looks like a couple of different shades of blue or purple in the card itself, and I'm not a chemist to know why there's a differentiator. It may, I don't know if at some point you could have something that's in sunlight for a longer period of time than something else. It just was on somebody's bookshelf, and somehow the way where it was displayed, it could have just been a little bit different. So that could be a possibility as well.
All right, let's look at the next one now, guys. 48 leaf Stan Musial, a beautiful PSA 4 copy, and for all intents and purposes. And I'm going to just sort of do it this way so that you guys watching on your phones and that can see. So I'm now zoomed in on the bottom sort of third of the card. It looks really, really nice and clean. It's not perfect, but it looks great. You come up to the halfway mark, still looks good. You get to the top third of the card, especially the left side. And if you guys can see right in his line of sight here, right in Stan the Man's line of sight, if I zoom in, you see there's this surface weirdness going on here. And David, is this what caught your eye? And if so, what's your suspicion, if anything?
Yeah, so everyone knows I love these leaf cards, and I'm just trying to see if I can figure out ways to see if cards are possibly cleaned and maybe that are still showing some marks of that. And I feel like this is another one where I'm seeing wear that looks like this. To me, that wear looks a little bit like it was something was trying to be removed, or like it was trying to be brushed with some kind of version of this. I don't know. Listen, we can't tell, but I do know that this is an amazing looking card, perfectly centered. It has an amazing blue background, but I'm seeing these like weird white marks on a lot of cards these days, especially leaf cards. I see a lot of leaf cards. I look at a lot of them. And I'm wondering if this is based on cleaning, because it doesn't look like normal wear to me. It looks like it was brushed in my mind. Yeah. And I could be wrong. I'm speculating when I'm saying this.
Well, and this is a card that is like atop my want list right now. So I'm looking for a copy, and I love everything about this card except for that section of it. And whether it's the result of cleaning or just other surface damage, it still is enough that it's not going to be the copy for me. But that's, that is if I were to know that this is because somebody took the cleaning device to it, I don't want it. I just don't want it. Even if that marking wasn't there and someone took their cleaning device to it, I still would just wait for another copy. There's no shortage of these cards. I can find another one if I'm patient. So, Robert, any thoughts on this one, or any other thoughts come across your mind in the last little few seconds?
No, I agree with David that it looks like there is something that has been done to the upper left-hand corner of the card, but it's pure speculation as to why.
Yeah. Fair enough. A couple of comments here from Matt Collard. Says, imagine paying $10,000 for a PSA 7, putting in your safe, and 10 years later you bring it out to sell it. Now the card has stains, and when you sell it, nobody wants to pay anything for it because it's altered. I think what he's saying is you might clean it, but something comes back is what he's getting at there. I think that's a question or a concern a lot of people have. I don't know. Again, not a chemist. Don't know if these stains can come back, but I think people have concerns. And then Jeff's card journey says, I think I saw that card on eBay. Yeah, that card, this card right here, Jeff's card journey comes, it's right here. It's being sold on eBay for $4,999.99 right now. It's on as a buy it now, and it's been sitting there for it's got 14 watchers. Seller is called Ballpark Memories, 3,617. Listen, not calling out any seller here for anything. You don't know where they got the card from or anything like that. But anyway, it is what it is. It's a card that caught our eye. So Jeff, fair comment there. Go ahead, David.
So then the question also remains, let's say the stain does reappear. Well, we have insurance. We have the PSA guarantee, don't we?
Oh,
So I wonder if PSA will, because they have changed grades after they've given grades, realizing that their grade is incorrect, such as that PSA 10 Wilt Chamberlain card that they made it a 9 later on, let the guy keep the card and pay them the difference. So I know this happened to Orlando, where he felt like he had a card that looked like it was soaked and had something that reappeared. I'm wondering if we're able to use the PSA guarantee if we are to find that out. Or how about all these cards that are being soaked right now? Maybe AI comes out 10 years later and finds out that it can detect if a card has been soaked or not. Will that also be PSA guaranteed availability? I don't know, right? Just another thought on this whole topic.
Yeah.
I have a question in terms of what happens to cards that have natural staining over a period of time, like some Dunkin' Donuts that turn yellowish, or some of the Kobe cards over time.
Yeah, I think he's talking about like the refractors and that. Sorry, we just lost Robert's audio, probably just temporarily here. But to me, I don't want those cards either. I don't want the Kobe refractor that's all greened out. A little bit of green I'm okay with. But here's a really good question from Not Yelia. Says, David, would it change your view of the mark if you knew that the mark was made in 1949 when someone tried to brush the spaghetti sauce off the card that they slurped onto it, and the surface versus someone cleaning it a few months before grading? I added the spaghetti sauce there, Yelia. But great question. David, take the first stab at it.
Definitely. If I felt like that was something that was just something that happened back in the day, or even a kid that wrote a piece of pencil on it and then erased it themselves, it would be much easier for me to digest. The biggest thing, though, that I'm noticing, I'm not exaggerating, like over the last 24 months, I've seen so many more of cards that look like that. So is that just because I'm noticing it? Maybe. Okay, that could be a possibility. But I really do believe that it's possible, that I think that there's more soaking going on right now than ever before, and that we're seeing some of the mishaps from it. And that's just me guessing. I have no idea, and it could have been from the past. But to know that there's a chance of that, it scares me. And but knowing that there's that PSA guarantee to protect us if we ever do figure this out, maybe that's going to be helpful. I don't know. It's so interesting to
I love
dive
the
into
PSA guarantee discussion. I completely love that, and I think they would protect you the grade of the card. I think PSA would protect the grade of the card, and you would be eligible for your insurance claim there. And for Yelia's question there about the spaghetti sauce issue, it would change my view if I knew that the mark was made in 1949 when someone was trying to brush off something innocently instead of trying to commit PSA fraud. I call it PSA fraud now, guys. That's the new term, at least here in the Sports Cards Live studio. PSA fraud is when you're trying to trick PSA. I don't know that it's really fraudulent from a law enforcement perspective. You can do whatever you want to your possessions. I think you can do whatever you want to your sports cards, guys. Like, if we're just being really pragmatic about it, but we have a set of mores here in the hobby, and that's one of them. How we like the ethics to be and all that. So, and then Orlando here says, yeah, I have a card that the glue removal stain came back years later. So I think I've heard Orlando say that before, and that can be a bit of an issue for sure. So lots more comments coming through. Robert, we lost you mid-sentence. Can you remember where you were and pick up where you left off, please?
No, I was just commenting on different types of cards, and you were correct with the Kobe refractor that stains over time, and what happens if it's graded a certain grade and it becomes prevalent as time goes on. Obviously it affects resale value because people are looking at that specific grade in comparison to others of similar grade.
Fair, yeah, yeah. You mentioned the Dunkin' Go Nuts too. Another one that, I don't think I would have to think that if cards are naturally changing because of how they were produced, not how they were handled post production, I don't think that PSA is going to guarantee anything that way. But if it's something that maybe happened, more by PSA fraud, that they would likely cover it. So sorry, I don't know if that completely spoke to you there, Robert. And one sec, David, because here's a really great Stray Cat 67 says, if collectors had any idea just how many of their favorite cards in their collections were cleaned or improved in some way, they'd either just accept it going forward or leave the hobby. That's I think he makes a really good point there. How are you going to handle it when you learn that a lot of your cards have been treated? I mean, as someone who is against it for my own cards, I'm very willing to accept that I likely have a certain amount of cards in my collection that have been soaked or have been altered, and they've just gotten right past PSA without any question or any scrutiny, not any scrutiny, but with the scrutiny just being all for naught. This worthless scrutiny in that case. So yeah, it's a tough situation. Go ahead, Robert. Sure.
Can I add a can of worms to this? And that would be that if this becomes as massive as it could potentially be, especially with some of the dealers who are commenting on the T206 group, does PSA have enough backing to actually provide a guarantee? Because the cards that it's taking place with and the valuations today, I don't know if they have enough money to cover it.
I am not concerned about that, Robert. The amount of money that they're bringing in on a daily basis. The other thing is that they have maximums in place on those guarantees. I think you raise a legitimate concern. I think it's worth asking if it hits the fan and everybody decides to cash in on the PSA insurance, which again is one of the it's why I want my cards in PSA slab. One of the reasons why, because I just love any insurance where someone else pays your premiums. To me, it's incredible. It's like you can't get that anywhere else. I wish other industries would take a page out of PSA's business model for that. But they cap people, right? Everyone's capped. You're capped at 500,000 lifetime, and you're capped at $250,000 per card. So, I don't know how many millions they have in the reserve for this, but I'll tell you, every single day they are adding to their reserve to meet this contingent liability that sits on their books. It has to sit on their books, even as a private company. So
they have third party insurance.
No, it's all self-insured. It's all through the upcharges, and it's why they charge so much for grading. They charge so much for grading. One of the reasons is to fund this insurance, the payouts. That's it. They self-insure. David,
I actually agree with Robert. I don't think that they have enough to cover the amount of cards that have been altered, and I think that it could be a huge deal for PSA. I think that could be someday a reason for their downfall, and I think that they are really not wanting AI to come out to be able to figure out alterations, because if AI can figure out a trimmed card or a soaked card, PSA is in a lot of trouble. And I think that they're going to do everything they can to not have that technology come out. This is just me speculating. Maybe I have my tin hat on. Maybe they bought SGC and Beckett because they had a version that they were starting to get a little bit more AI and decided to take them out to make sure it wasn't coming. I don't know. I know that that's me really going pretty far on this, but that could be a possibility. Now who's left, right? There's only a couple of companies left. And I think that if another company had AI, I wouldn't be surprised if PSA bought them too, because they do not want to pay out as many cards that are in these slabs that have these kind of problems. Another thing that when you spoke about the Kobe, the Chrome Kobe card and the hulking, another thing that kind of brought into my attention is there's such a few amount of those cards that have no hulking to it, right? The green. right? And it is a natural thing for that card to turn green. So we all think, those cards that haven't turned green, that's because they've been in somebody's basement and shown no light forever. You know what? Maybe those have had some kind of treatment to make it where those cards have not holed, right? Maybe there is some kind of version of that for altering to be able to have it where that doesn't happen, because that is a natural process for those cards. So there's just so many different versions of these alterations. And I think that it is a very, very deep pool. And I think that we know this much of it. And that's why we're having these kind of discussions.
Well, I mean, you got me thinking about the whole, can they fund the eventual claims? And I think that I agree. I mean, if everybody with altered cards or cards that PSA would rather have, where cards that PSA says they won't slab and offer guarantees on, if everybody came forth at once, is that enough to bankrupt PSA based on their policy, their guarantee? Is that enough? I don't know. I mean, we have here. Stray Cat says the sum total of just altered vintage cards alone is worth many multiple more than all of Collectors Inc. Not to even mention modern cards. Their guarantee is a terrible business policy. Well, it's terrible maybe for them. It's great for us. I've been the recipient of it. I say it almost every week nowadays. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's terrible for them, and maybe it is their eventual downfall. But I have to think they'd figure out a way to not have to go bankrupt because of it. I think there's got to be a way for them. I mean, if they're grading, what if they're grading like 250,000 cards a day now? I think I've seen in some cases. Like, their revenues are just monstrous. And the other thing is that cards that are like a PSA 10 mantle, if that's a $100 million card, they only have to pay out 500,000 on it. Apparently, they make some side deals. They will go in excess, I've heard, of their maximum payout. But here, Bird Gang says PSA ex-president of grading training admitted on Boston Card Hunters channel that they also grade more valuable iconic cards harder because new graders are scared and nervous to give a 10, which just, completely it just makes the whole thing, like as Ziggy calls it, wizardry. It's literally, you're not getting accurate grades. You're just getting whatever it is that you're getting. Line Tails says PSA is going to buy Tag. Mark my words. He goes on to say Tag is, what does he say somewhere? It says Tag is struggling bad. Tag is succeeding bad, actually, Line Tails. They are at max capacity, just like they're running 3 shifts 24/7. They're not struggling. They're struggling to keep up, just like PSA is. But everyone's having the same problem. It's just simply hiring the graders is the tough thing there for all of these guys. Okay, David, you got to go. So goodbye.
Bye. I have to go watch fireworks. You guys have a great discussion. Can't wait to listen.
All right, buddy. Thank you. All right. Now, but Leighton has joined the back room now, Robert. So we're gonna bring Leighton on. And
sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't hear you now. So
okay, I'm gonna take you out. Robert, give me a thumbs up when you can hear me again in the background. Okay, Leighton, welcome. Say hello to Robert. Robert, say hello to Leighton. I'll let you guys meet each other quick, and we'll go on.
Sure, Leighton, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Leighton, Robert collects vintage. He collects modern. He's doing a T206 run of some sort. He's working on some things. We haven't even gotten in yet to learning more about Robert. This topic that we've been talking about has been dominating the discussion. But when I bring on Leighton from Just Collect, he's my partner in the Vintage Spotlight podcast. We'll have another episode coming out soon, guys. We promise. Before we jump in, Leighton, just curious from you, what's going on? Anything at Just Collect you want to mention? Always thank you for being a great sponsor here of the show, also a part of the team. But talk to us, Leighton. What's going on with you before we jump back into our discussion?
Well, I hope everyone's having a great 4th of July. I watched some fireworks along the Hudson River with some good friends, and I'm happy to make it back here in time. Hoboken is completely chaotic with traffic, so I'm glad that I walked. So I'm happy to be here.
Good for you. Nice to hear that. And it was an enjoyable night. Everything going well out there in New York City?
Yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, everyone's in a joyous mood to cross the river here. We can see the city, but no, I'm actually technically in Hoboken.
Okay. Good. Well, we've been talking about cleaning cards. I don't know if you've been able to watch any of this leading up.
I literally just showed up, kind of dropped me right in here.
All right. Well, then what we're going to do, guys, is we are going to continue. I want to bring on just comment here from Tony. Says the insurance at PSA is not free. It's paid for on every grading. I agreed with that. But if you don't submit cards to PSA and you just buy them on the secondary market, it's free. Yes, it might be priced in. All PSA card, we know PSA cards command the most money, and maybe it's because of that. But to me, that's money well spent as a buyer of secondary cards. I've never once paid an upgrade. I have submitted cards to PSA. Maybe I've submitted 50 cards in since 2009. I've maybe graded 50 cards with them, and I've been paid out on their guarantee well in excess of that amount. So I love the policy for me as the owner of several cards in PSA slabs. Okay. Leighton, it's good to have you back. I feel like you haven't been on for a few weeks, man. I'm
happy to be back. I don't want to deviate from what you guys are talking about, but I feel like I had two good questions that I did not email you about or text you. But please, by all means, go right ahead. But I just wanted you to know I'm prepared.
Okay.
I'm ready, willing, and able to deploy these questions.
Okay. Hold on to them because Robert, here's the thing. I told Robert we'll bring you on at a quarter to the hour. He comes on 10 minutes late. Now we're already like almost an hour into his appearance. We haven't even got to Robert's topics, okay? And but you can stay on for how long, Leighton?
So just after 12.
So 25 more minutes or so.
Yeah, give or take.
Okay, so I want to go and I want to start with one of Robert's topics, and then we'll go to your questions, Leighton. You'll leave. We'll go back to Robert's topics if that's okay with everybody. So, Robert, we're not going to get through everything at the beginning that we
100%.
thought we would. You listen. You know how this goes, right? But I do want to talk about the topic that Robert presented to me, which was around comps and comps potentially having more context within them. So, Robert, I don't want to steal your thunder. Why don't you set the stage for, or do you want me to? Because I have it right in front of me in writing if you want, because I have the email you sent me. Do you want me to read it or do you want to kind of go and explain it?
Why don't you read it first and I'll elaborate even further on that. So
Sounds good. We're partners in this, Robert. So
Okay.
He said to me, should comps have two prices, such as net seller price and gross buyer price, similar to stocks having a bid and an ask pricing? So I read that message from Robert. I thought, we think like this anyway. And in many cases, you think about what is the comp? Okay, the last comp was $12,000, let's say. Okay, well, in many cases, if that's at auction, that $12,000 might have been $10,000 plus a 20% buyer's premium, meaning the seller only got 10 of that $12,000. So if you're now selling me that same card and you say, well, the comp's 12, I want 12, I could say to you, yeah, but you only got 10 for it. So why would I give you 12 now? And then, well, you would have had to pay 12. Why should I take less than 12? Is that kind of what you were getting at, Robert, with that whole discussion?
exactly. And it goes even further than that because there's taxes, shipping, a whole host of other fees. So the cost can be anywhere between 15 and 30%, depending on the card and where you're buying it and so on. And I know being a Canadian collector buying from American auction houses, I'm dealing with currency exchange on top of that. So it's, there's a whole host of different costs that are associated with the transaction, and there must be a way to formalize it in one way, shape, or form, depending on what side of the transaction you're on, to really give you better pricing.
That's exactly right. Even on the buyer's side, the comp, I bought my Joe Jackson, my 14 Cracker Jack Joe Jackson at auction. $150,000 was what the comp looks like, but it doesn't say in there that I paid a funding fee. I paid over $10,000 on top of that just to fund the thing. That's not there. So what's the comp? Is it 150? Is it 160? Is it 125, which was the hammer? Is it whatever the seller got, which would have been the 125 hammer? Usually you think that's all the seller gets, but oftentimes the auction companies will even cut the seller in to the buyer's premium. So it could be a bit higher. So you got to be so careful. All this is talked about, by the way, in pops and comps. Everything we're talking about is addressed in this book to give people who aren't aware of these moving parts all the different kind of possibilities and scenarios there. But so I'm with you, Robert. I think that comps are very limited in the story they tell. They only tell a part of the story. There's a lot missing from that story. So if you are someone who's out there using comps, you need to understand the context. I got chapters about this in the book. So I'm with you, Robert. I think that is something that people need to understand. Leighton, what are your thoughts?
Well, Robert, it's a great thought-provoking question. I'm glad that you brought it to Jeremy's attention on the show.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating to discuss this kind of stuff, especially as the hobby gets bigger. So number one, I think you brought up, like I said, a really thought-provoking question. Number two, something I think that's kind of left out is that the playing field is really not apples to apples. And what I mean, Robert, is forget about that you live in Canada. Let's just assume that you live in the U.S. for a moment. If you're a collector in the U.S. versus a dealer and someone who has a business like myself here at Just Collect, it's a little bit different how the way things operate. In other words, I don't pay sales tax. I might not even pay insurance. I might actually give an auction house my FedEx number to ship to me, which means that my FedEx account will be billed because maybe I think that particular auction house's charges are exorbitant. But as a collector, it might be more challenging for you to do or deal with those kinds of things. So I just wanted to kind of point that out because it's really not all apples to apples out there, kind of the way you both are alluding to, but I wanted to add that extra wrinkle on top of it.
More to the story potential that people aren't always aware of. Yeah, definitely agree. Any other thoughts on that topic, Robert?
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point, Leighton. And I know as well that different buyers, depending on their volume, pay different eBay fees on their transactions. So very difficult, but it would be people need to be cognizant of the different costs on both sides of the equation. And what the intent was to try and make it where if there's a middle price, if you're doing a transaction, buyer and seller, that both can win, even if you're not hitting the last comp when you're looking at something on different pricing software.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Okay, I'm gonna a couple quick comments here, guys. Jim Define, oh no, not that one. Sorry. Card Fuchsia's here said, do you think PSA has gotten better since 2021? It's been 5 years since the new ownership group took over. I don't know. I think that they probably have gotten better in some ways, but I also think that they've grown so much and they've decentralized. I just don't know how they have control, how they have consistency controls in place. I would like a tour. I would like a tour of more than one of their offices to have and even go through their training program to see how they are maintaining consistency. Sancho here says, was the Joe Jackson restored? I think he's talking about my card. Obviously he is. I don't think it was, Sancho. Great question. I don't think it was. I traced its ownership back to the 1960s, and through all those steps, I don't think it was, but I cannot be certain, just like any card in my collection. So tough to say for certain, but I traced it back in owner. Like I've got provenance back to the 60s, which I love about my card. And Reef the Sea says, what about those dealers that throw comps out the windows at conventions? All I'll say to that is that's their right, guys. Like listen, nobody is governed by any comp. No seller it has to sell a card for a recent comp, guys. If everybody sold a comp and everybody bought a comp, there'd be one price forever for every single card. It's ridiculous to think that way. And not all cards are the same in the same grade. So comps are helpful. That's it. That is it. So I'll just sort of leave that at that as far as how I think about it. Another topic, Robert, that you wanted to talk about, you'll like this one, Leighton, I think. I'm going to read this one. He says, coming up against scarcity and true float with player grail cards, where certain collectors have cornered the market for rarer cards. For example, a Topps Kanibo, I don't know what Kanibo is, Robert, but what's Kanibo?
So back in 2002, 2003, there was a set issued in Japan, a takeoff on just regular Topps cards. So they were issued in the US. In Japan, it was a smaller set of the Topps 2002 set, and they had the gold backing, gold frame, silver frame, and black frame. And while they weren't numbered, the blacks are maybe a pop of 10. They're almost impossible to find. And the Vlad Guerrero, I'm a Vlad Guerrero collector. There were 0 on the PSA pop report, and it took me about 2 years to find one. And when I did find one, I found out that the 10 more or less, there's only a few out there. There's one particular collector who probably has all of them. So that's one example of creating scarcity above and beyond what the limited print run is.
Right. So we're just talking about a rare card that is very hard to buy. Somebody is basically hoarding them. But then you went on to talk about, you said, like, is this market manipulation? Is it cool? And then we all know about FOMO, but Robert brought up the concept of MO, simply missing out. It's not the fear of missing out, it's the missing out itself. Robert, explain that. What were you thinking there? And marry these two concepts if you can.
Yeah, so I can bring up another small grouping of cards, a subset, Dunross Crusade. They have a red card which had a print run of 25. That specific card I was looking at had a PSA pop for a 10. There was only one available, and it comes out and you actually miss out on that one card, and you're thinking, I'm never going to get that in my collection. And so that's the missing out, where you've actually missed out on it. It's gone, and you may or may not ever come across it again.
Yeah, that's never fun. Leighton, does that ever happen to you where you the card you've been looking for comes up and you either, like, it's happened to me this way too, where there's a card that I want, but I forgot to look for it. I go to eBay completed listings, and there it is. There's the card sold 3 weeks ago, and I wasn't on the ball enough to watch for it, so I missed out on it. That's missing out. That's not the fear of missing out. That's Mo. That's just missing out altogether. Leighton, do you have any sort of experiences like that come to mind where you're just like, dang it? Or do you take the position I often take with almost every card, which is there's always more cards to buy? What do you think, Leighton?
Well, it's interesting. And obviously this is a little bit self-serving here. So on the card side of things, I really have started to use auction wire quite deeply so that I don't miss cards that not only am I looking for my PC, but that I'm looking for, let's say, a long-term investment, but they might be difficult to find, whether it be because it's numbered, like Robert's referring to, or it's a vintage card and I'm looking for a certain type of eye appeal. So that's kind of something that comes to mind, I would say, to start. It's a little bit, I would say, I'm sure the way that you described it, Robert, deflating if you're going after a card and you feel like a collector's buying them up. I remember that was a little bit going on with, let's say, like 1993 Finest Refractors, way back in the day. Maybe that's going on with PMGs. And in regards to missing out, I feel like, memorabilia is a little bit more challenging. Like, I collect Michael Jordan memorabilia, and I have some really cool stuff in my collection. But I can definitely tell you about the items I didn't win. So was it that I missed out, or was I just not able to find a comp, or was I just at my budget, meaning the top of it? I don't know, but I feel like for cards, I'm figuring it out, and for memorabilia, because it's a balance of art and science, and I guess cards are like that as well. I feel like it's happening to me a little bit more on the memorabilia side.
Fair. And Mookie Chilson says, auction wire is your cure for Mo. It's your cure for missing out. And as I said on the top of the show, Auction Wire, which Leighton is a co-founder of Auction Wire, is you guys are introducing new features all the time, and the watch list feature is amazing. I'm using it, and as I think I said too, it not only will it help you not miss out on cards listed across all the auction platforms, it'll probably cause you to buy cards you weren't even planning to buy because it picks up on a lot of great cards there.
Yeah, warning, exactly. Warning. You may spend
Yeah.
more than originally intended.
Yeah, before you jump, Robert, I want to bring Joe Poirot onto the show with us because he's in the back. Joe, you good, buddy? Joe is good. We're going to bring him on. Say hello to Joe. Welcome Joe back, everybody. Joe, hello. Meet Robert.
Hi, Joe. Nice to meet you.
Hello,
Good, Joe.
good to see you, Leighton. Good to meet you, Robert. Hey, Jay Lee. Great conversation. Don't let me stop the flow. Keep it rolling.
Robert, over to you. Thank you, Joe.
I just want to say I'm a heavy user of Auction Wire, and it's a game-changing platform, and appreciate you putting it into play, Leighton, because I think the hobby's been dying for something like that.
That's very kind. And Reef the Sea says, I'll check out Auction Wire. There is an affiliate link in the video description below, guys. So if you're going to go sign up for Auction Wire, you can use the Sports Cards Live affiliate link and get 60 free days of service. So do check that out. Do check it out that way, Reef the Sea. Appreciate that. Okay, so Joe, we were just talking about not the fear of missing out, but actually missing out on a card. It's happened to all of us. We're going to switch it up again now. Leighton came prepared with a couple of questions for the panel. So now that Joe's here, let's have a fresh start. And then I still, just so everyone knows the program here, once we get through Leighton's two topics, there's at least one more Robert topic that I want to get to. So we'll hold that one until we're done with Leighton's question. So Leighton, what's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I could go in either one of two directions, but I'll do the one I think is a little more thought-provoking. And that is, if you are a collector, would you rather have more money but less time to pursue the hobby? Okay. Or would you rather have much less money but a lot more free time on your hands to pursue the hobby?
Ooh.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Is this about, like, okay, at first, until you said time on your hands, I was thinking, like, how many more years and decades do I have? Like, if I could do the hobby for 5 years and have $1 billion, or 25 years and have $100,000, like, is it that, or is it just daily, like, we're all going to live till we're 90 sort of thing?
I mean, listen, you could take it for whatever you want to take it for. I don't have exactly like a whole outline of rules and regulations, but maybe this will become a topic on a future episode of Vintage Spotlight. You never know. But it really got me thinking.
Where we have rules for our games.
Exactly. It got me thinking, I guess, of this, right? Like, we all think we want this unlimited budget. But we also know that if you had an unlimited budget, a lot of the fun, I think, would not be present for that chase, for that hunt. And I'm just curious, what do you guys think? Not just, the four of us, but also the community.
Well, if it's how many more years do I have left to enjoy the hobby? Like my example, give me $1 billion to be in the hobby for 5 years, or give me $100,000 to be in the hobby for the next 30 years. I'm going to take 30 years and $100,000 versus $1 billion for 5. I can't imagine my life without the hobby. So I'm going to always go for I'm pretty much always going to go for the time over the money there, Leighton. How about you, Robert? Any thoughts on this conundrum Leighton has presented?
I was looking at it in a different fashion as far as the time component was. So I was looking at it more along the lines of, do I have an hour a day or 6 hours a day? I would choose the money over the time and spend a little less time. I spend about an hour a day on the hobby. I'm okay with that. Would I like to have less money in my life and spend 5 hours a day on the hobby? Probably not. I'm happy with the allocation of more money.
See, for me, I would have to, I spend 6 hours a day on the hobby. So I would now have to take time away and find something else to do, which I could easily do. So Joe, what are you thinking on this one?
I think I go a tiny bit more in the direction of the money, just because I feel like I've spent so much time thinking about the hobby that I could probably deploy those resources in interesting ways without too much extra research. And that said, I mean, I tend to value time more. And I just want to mention, it's about to be a war zone here in Santa Cruz. Dusk is hitting right now, so I'm going to be muting on and off just to alleviate any unnecessary explosions to the rest of the YouTube community. So, but anyway, I'm pretty split down the middle, but I lean a little towards resources.
All right, good. Okay, Leighton, satisfied with your question? How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to discuss. If I had to vote, because I gave it a little bit of thought, of course, before I brought it to you all, I would actually vote for the time, but not so much because of the way that, let's say, that you interpreted, Jeremy, or you did, Robert, right? Because we all interpret, I think, a little bit differently. For me, I have a lot of time that I spend in the hobby, but it's what I do for work. And a little bit of it's lost because I do it for work. I enjoy it and I do collect. But if you said to me, what's the one resource is that you can't get more of no matter how much money you have, and that's absolutely time. So for me, I think I would opt towards time, and I think the money would follow, and that's what I would vote for. But you can interpret the question however you want. That's what's fun about it.
For sure. Joe?
Just to add on, there's so much time when in theory I'm doing other things that I'm still thinking about the hobby, that it like I don't even want to admit that because I might not have a job. But the reality is, like, I don't think there's any way in this experiment, this thought experiment, that the brain functions would prevent me from being able to think about the hobby. Now, that's not actively pursuing, if I didn't have access to Card Ladder, if I didn't have access to, save searches and all that, but it's
on Auction Wire.
Yeah, an Auction Wire, any of it. But I have my head spinning around with the information I do have over the, not small amount of years I've already put in. So that's a little extra addendum to my answer.
It's a fun thought experiment, Leighton, which it's one you can take in different ways. So okay, you said you had 2 topics. What's number 2?
I do. Now, Jeremy, please don't get offended, as I know you're Canadian, right? But this is more towards the American contingency that's watching this evening. But I'm curious, with America's 250th birthday upon us, and obviously everyone celebrates July 4th differently, at least in America, but the commonality is fireworks and, hot dogs and barbecue, things of that nature. I'm curious, has America's 250th celebration and birthday, and maybe a little bit of the World Cup fever, has it caused anyone in the community, meaning here, like, collectors, to actually go outside of the norm and collect, whether it be a non-sport card of George Washington or some memorabilia related to, whether something unrelated to cards and or sports cards? That's what I was curious about.
It makes me think of like Ted Williams cards or Pat Tillman cards, like people like the real patriotic, Americans in history and sport. So yeah, for me, I did share on my Instagram today a US themed card that I have in my collection, and it's a beautiful card, and I'm going to show it to you guys really quickly right now if you don't follow me on Instagram. But I shared this as with a caption, Happy 4th of July to all my American friends. And there's the card I shared. It's a U.S. flag from the shoulder patch worn by American-born Brian Leach, Hall of Fame and Stanley Cup champion with the New York Rangers back in 1994. And it's a huge patch of the Stars and Stripes. It's a beautiful card. I love it. I'm not American, but I love this card. I'm not moving it. I love it as if I was American. So, but fun question, Leighton. Robert, how about, Robert's Canadian too. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. If you do, put up your hand. How about you, Joe?
Not so much in this particular holiday, although, during the Olympics, I did go out and look at, Jack Hughes and I can't even pronounce his name. The goalie, Yenderchuk, or whatever his name was, Halichuk. Hellebuyck. Thank you. But
Hellebuck, not Heldebuck, just Hellebuck, but it's okay.
must be a different name. Anyway, but no, in this go round, I mean, ironically, Leighton, I bought a Mbappe card a couple games into the first round, just because I felt like maybe it was my French roots. And then today, watching the match in Philadelphia, I mean, it was pretty intense. Even before the teams came out onto the field, there was a lot of kind of pomp and circumstance and sort of, patriotism, nationalism. So, it's an interesting time, but I've felt encouraged psychologically by this World Cup, by people, coming to North America's, the continent, and joining together. So I'd say more energetically reaping a sort of positive experience than acquiring anything tangible.
Does it make a difference that it's the 250th birthday of independence of the United States? I mean, it's a nice big round number, 250. I'm asking this just not about the hobby, more just for what the vibes are down in the USA today. Is this a more impactful Independence Day than the last several that we've all been alive since maybe the last 49, since the 200th anniversary sort of thing? Leighton?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, right, if we're covering this like the hobby, I would say that activity was high. They said, like, if I was discussing this as the national, you couldn't move where I was watching the fireworks at all. So in years past, you could maybe lift up your arms and swing them, and no, there was no room whatsoever. And according to Macy's, which was their 50th ever parade, as far as the fireworks display, they claimed it was their biggest ever, right? And I turned on the TV briefly when I got home, and I would say that the vibe is a little bit more, higher pitched than usual. I mean, 250, as you said, it's a nice round number.
Yeah, well, the chat is telling me yes. I mean, I'm getting lots of Mookie. Yeah, 250 is a big one. Yes, it's a big deal, says Reef the Sea. Tim says UFC Freedom 250 was the best moment in television history. Lauren Anderson, this is the 250th. Let's go. Reef, yes, people shut down since July 2nd. He says, Stuke says 200 was in 1976, was a lot more exciting than 250. So he's saying 200 was even a bigger one. I wonder if 300 will be bigger than 250, if that's sort of the pace of things. Interesting. Yeah, well, fun. Hey, listen, happy Independence Day. Happy big 250 to all of our friends, as we say up here, south of the border. And as I've said before here, as a Canadian, we love our American friends south of the border. So what you might see elsewhere and on social media, and even in some things in the news, it only represents the loud minority, if they're ever, I would say, coming at the U.S. And oftentimes it's not at the USA. It's oftentimes it's just wrapped up or directed at one specific individual who's an American citizen, not at the whole country and all the fine people down there. So, all right, Leighton, well, fun topic, man. Fun topic or topics. Okay, I want to respect, Leighton, your time. Are you? Because I want to go back to one of Robert's topics. You're welcome to stay, Leighton. Josh Adams is in the back. I want to bring him on. So, Leighton, you want to stick around for 10 more minutes or so, or do you got to go now?
I'm actually going to take off. I got an early rise tomorrow. But I appreciate you having me. I hope everyone has a great rest of the night celebrating, for those that are celebrating, and for those north of the border, like yourself, Jeremy, and Mark Juteau, and Long-Haired Larry, and all my Canadian friends, right? And Bobby Morrell. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys next week.
Take care, Leighton. Thanks, buddy.
Right.
Nice meeting you, Leighton. Take care.
All right. Josh, you want to join? You good? Yeah. All right, guys. Please welcome Joshua Adams. Josh, please meet Robert.
Robert, lovely to meet you. You have a lovely voice for radio. I have a lovely face for radio. It sounds great. So
Thank you, Joshua.
Joe, nice to
meeting
see you.
as well.
Jeremy, what's happening?
What do I have, Josh? What do I have?
You're an aura. You're the best. You're indiscreet. You're incomparable.
He's up for hobby president. If there's ever another election, there's a lot of people that want to see Joe maybe take over not take over. I mean, Mangini's a great president for the hobby, But if his term ever ends, which I don't know the rules on that in the hobby politics, Joe's up for election, I believe, which will be fun. Okay, so the next topic I want to get into, guys, this is a Robert topic. We talk a lot about eye appeal. And eye appeal tends to center around centering in many cases. If you listen to this show before, you know that I like centering, but to me, focus is more important. Robert, what is the most important element of eye appeal for you?
It's interesting. I had to think about it and why it is the way it is. And I think about a card's DNA. So the card is printed, it's cut, and it comes out in a certain way. Centering is something that will never change in a card outside of being altered. It is what it is. And so I think of a card, you get it out of a pack, and the thing that sticks in my mind, because I look at my collection when I was a kid, cornering has been demolished over the years in all of my cards. I used to throw them against the walls, you knockdowns, topsies, farthies, whatever you want to play, which is a form of altering, I suppose. And so to me, when I see a card that is 50, 70, 100 years old and the cornering is perfect, I look at that as, to me, eye appeal is one that takes center stage. No pun intended.
Corners.
So corners of cards. So the sharpness of the corners on a card are very appealing to me, more so than perfect centering. So I will look at a card and say, hey, I know right off the get-go a card is not going to be a 10 because centering is off. And this doesn't apply, let's say, to modern cards, but when I'm looking at cards that are more vintage, if I look at a card, and I sent one to you, Jeremy, where the card looked, we'll call it pack fresh from, it was a 1951 or 1952 Parkhurst. It was as though it was brand spanking new. The centering was off, but the corners are sharp as they were day one. And to me, that is very nice eye appeal, and I prefer that over perfect centering with less than sharp corners.
Guys, you can all lean if you want while we have this overlay. Other way, guys. Other way, Joe. Other way. There you are. There's Joe. Josh, other way. Robert, other way. Oh, you don't have to. It's okay. I'll take it off in a moment. But overlaid on our screen right now is a 1952 Parkhurst Pete Conacher, card number 33, and a PSA 8 holder. And as you can tell, it has beautifully sharp corners and edges, great color, but it is off center to the southwest a little bit, mostly to the west, I would say, side to side. A beautiful card overall, Robert, but not one that the majority of eye appeal talkers, abouters would say had strong eye appeal, because most people go for centering. I go registration, then centering. Corners I'm willing to give on. Corners are probably the least important aspect to me, because just me. So, but I like how you told the story as to kind of why you love sharp corners. But I want to have you always been that way your whole collecting life, or did you kind of realize that you were that way once eye appeal conversation sort of took over hobby narrative?
I didn't give it much thought until I started hearing the eye appeal discussion, and almost universally, the collectors were talking about centering being at the forefront of the eye appeal discussion. And I thought to myself, I'm in a different camp. I'm willing to give up some centering if I can have something that indicates that this card is almost in pristine condition, like it was when it was open for the first time decades ago. And because the centering, you can't change. It will never change. The corners can easily change based on how the card is handled. So the idea that it's been pristine for decades appeals to me more than the perfect centering.
More than the rarity of a perfectly centered card out of the pack. Yeah. So let's get the panel's thoughts on this, because this is a new take. Not it's a new take, but it's just a take we don't hear very often when it comes to eye appeal. And if there are but by the way, look, Dylan Double D says centering is new school. And Splenda says corners over centering. Yeah, I said it. So Robert, you're not alone, which I love. I love that you're not alone in this. And what do you want to say to those guys, Robert?
I'm glad to know that there's somebody in the same camp as me. That's great. I felt I was on a lonely island. So
obviously you aren't. Mookie here says sharp corners on a vintage card make me think the card was uncirculated or put away and never enjoyed. That's a little sad to me. How do you respond to that comment, Robert?
I think it was probably enjoyed just fine. There's certain cards I look at that I look at every single week, and no damage done to them. I'm sure they were, in a lot of cases, they probably were enjoyed. I think it's just such a rare phenomenon to see a perfectly cornered card.
Yeah, I think it. It is too. I agree with that. Let's hear from Joshua Adams on this. Josh, I mean, where do you fall on? And we're talking about vintage cards here. We're talking about eye appeal. Josh, what do you think about the corners take? Not preference of the preference for corners versus set. Where do you fall, Josh? Eye appeal.
I've never cared about centering ever. So it's kind of funny to see that come up all of a sudden now. And eye appeal has been a thing for like 30, 40 years. So I don't know, like all of a sudden it's taken off again, which is nice to see. Kind of like as a backlash against grading. But it's an interesting point about corners, right? Like you can't. What Robert said. So, I mean, I like, I'll let my card don't have any wrinkles and good registration. I'm good to go. That's kind of where I stand on my standards for eye appeal.
How about you, Joe? What do you think about corners being the lead as far as somebody's eye appeal preference goes?
Well, apropos to what y'all were talking about earlier, I mean, there's qualities and conditions that make me somewhat dubious of cards. And so if we're looking at centering in particular, one thing that's nice about, say, a 65-35 centering maybe, or a card that's not perfectly centered, is you might feel a little bit better about it not being trimmed. On the other hand, corners can also be a way in which trimming helps a card achieve sharper corners. So you kind of got to look for that. So I don't know. I'm kind of someone that I don't need anything to be perfect unless it's the registration to be like not having like anything horrific with it. But I can live with a little off center. I kind of went through a stage where I was very much in Robert's camp, where the corners, there was something really appealing to me about a card that had obviously not been sort of circulated. And I sometimes wonder if, those might be factory sets or kind of vending box editions, which are fine. That's how I got my 73 Topps baseball set, which they weren't perfect corners, but they were pretty damn good. And anyway, I'm kind of in the middle class, I'd say, on all things. I don't want any one thing to be detracting me from appreciating the card, but I can live with a little off center, a little corner, minor, nothing too much. And then most of what I appreciate was registration and color saturation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know that about you, Joe. So, okay. But maybe the chat didn't. So it's like the amount we talk. But Robert, I want to present you with a phrase, and that is sexy corners. Sexy corners. Corners with what I'm talking, like, not sharp, rounded, nice symmetrical rounding. All four corners have that same curve going around it. You look at that. You look at the symmetry. You look at the nice roundness of it. Almost like the corners of a Pokemon card in a way. Like even this card that we showed earlier tonight on the screen, this one right here, I'm just covering us up, but look at the right side. Look at that. Look at those corners. How it looks like this card was produced with corners that were meant to be rounded like that, but that's just natural wear over time. I think those, while they're not as sharp like out of the pack, if the card is centered, good registration, those rounded corners, they don't bother me. Like, to me, they don't take away from the eye appeal. So I want to push back a little bit, but just to really not push back, dive in further, Robert, and ask you, like, do you like sharp corners because they represent a survivor, or do you like sharp corners because you actually think they look better than sexy corners?
I'm going to say both.
Okay.
If I can.
You can, of course you can.
Yeah. I think the idea of it being close to perfect over a long period of time, I think is incredible. When I see cards just surviving through pre-war, just even being available is incredible unto itself. And then to have cards that are decades old and have that close to perfection on the corners is something that I find astonishing. It's almost surreal to see cards that have survived that over that time frame, to have that corners of that stature. So,
well, the one thing that comes out of it, and Kinger in the chat raises this thought that I've had as well. He says, also very sharp corners, I think sheet cut initially before looking into the card. So sheet cut, really applies to not everything, but I get sheet cut isn't actually where my mind was going. I was just going into like trimming and that kind of thing. So when I see a really old card that has perfect corners, the red flags go up for me more than, wow, this is a survivor. I right away think to myself, okay, is this natural? And then you got to start measuring and things like that. Do you, Robert, in your, opinions on eye appeal and corners, do you put cards through that? Is this trimmed sort of filter before you decide that this is a card that you want to own?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'd have to look at it more in the raw space. I take grading when I'm looking at a graded card with the corners. I have to assume that the card has been measured for any sort of alteration or changes to the card. So I'm going to take the grading company at their word that they've done the work to put a positive authentication on it.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I think, once you're comfortable with it, right? Joe, are you like me in that when the card is that sharp that you do go through that filter? Do you automatically go to, is this natural, or do you right away just go to, this is beautiful?
I'm unfortunately a little cynical and a little paranoid, I guess you could say. And it's probably why the journey of my collecting, it would have made more sense as I, ended up making more money professionally and amassing more cards to consolidate. I would have probably made sense to go into higher level vintage, because I was always a vintage collector. And that's not to say that ultra modern and modern cards don't have their own shenanigans going on too, but I found myself less interested in the goat type cards, the mantles and mazes and errands in 7s and 8s, through the 50s and 60s, just because I was happy with a 5 or a 6 that looked relatively like within the realms of like, oh my God, how did this card survive like this? Or is this been doctored in some way? So that's my own journey. I've kind of siphoned more into more the modern cards that, look sharp. Occasionally, yes, people do nefarious things to the modern and ultra modern worlds. Obviously, there's backdoored copies. There's all kinds of things going on there. But yes, Jeremy, to answer your question, yes, I definitely have a first take of, oh my goodness, what do we have here? Is it real? Does it look too good to be true? It probably is.
What about you, Josh? What about you? Like, and not just on sharp corners, but on, perfect edges, clean white borders on a card that is where the borders are actual card stock versus like a gloss or an ink color, like a 48 leaf, I don't think has any color on the borders. I think it's just raw stock. And if that is too clean, I get concerned. What about you, Josh? Are there things that pop out to you?
So I'm naturally skeptical by nature.
No. What a surprise, everybody.
I know, right? I know. So I am skeptical of any high-grade vintage card that has traveled 100 years through time and looks like it just came out yesterday. So I think, personally, I think it's had work done on it. So that's where I stand. If I see that my mind goes to that's why I stick with low-grade stuff. Although I'm sure that's been worked on too, like we saw with that sweet cap back. So
yeah.
Robert, any sort of follow-ups to the topic, or are you good?
I think you guys brought up some great points, something for me to consider going forward.
But
So
I
learned
don't-
something new today.
Yeah, but you know what, Robert? I don't think, like, I sincerely hope that none of this changes your priority. And I don't think it will. Maybe it just causes you to add a few layers to the filter that you
No, I
put
love
cards
it.
through.
I love it. You guys gave some really good points to consider when looking at cards and whether they should be a part of the collection. It's great.
Well,
Joe,
Robert,
you want to jump in?
no, I just wanted to second what you said, Jay Lee. I don't think there's anything wrong with having those kind of sensibilities. I would just always be a little, just careful, especially the bigger the card, right? Like if you're collecting, a 1966 Dick Allen card, for instance, it's like go high grade, because like if it looks good, and it probably isn't too good to be true, but if it's a mantle, like that's where, an 8 or 9, that's where I start to get like hesitant, because the financial incentive for people to mess with those has for quite a long time been there. And I thought that was an interesting part to the earlier conversation, how, there's definitely doctors who are more skilled and less skilled. And I hate to say that. I hate to kind of evaluate any of it being good, but there's a point in the conversation where I think David Chase was mentioning, like, this looks like a bad alteration or a bad, card doctor or spa, if you will. Sorry, can you hear this fireworks?
We're good. We're all good. Okay, couple comments here we're going to go to. Dylan here says sharp corners are a dime a dozen, which I think is right in many cases. Carl from Oz is enjoying the discussion on a cold Melbourne Sunday. He's on team centering for sure. Nahuggins, agree with Robert. I'd also say color and registration have a huge impact on eye appeal for me. Me too, Nahuggins, and nice to see you, Nahuggins. Ken Fickle says centering seems more important for the new junk wax era. I think as far as ultra mod, if he's by new junk wax era, if he's talking about ultra modern, I think that makes sense, because corners and edges and registration and surface, outside of some dimples here and there, are perfect. Everything's perfect these days. Centering might be the only thing that differentiates a BGS 10 from a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 10 from a PSA 9. Everything's like, they're all 9s or 10s, so centering might be the only difference. But we're talking about vintage when it comes to eye appeal for the most part. Anyway, Dylan does say eye appeal today is just different than the past. Tim says clean autograph trumps centering and corners. Fair enough, Tim, but to me, autographs aren't even part of the discussion. Unless it's an autograph card, but I'm not even thinking about that. Dylan says centering is way more rare than sharp corners. I think that's true. Stuke says I have some nice creased cards that are centered, which I used to be so anti-crease, and now I will take a crease on a card if it's placed in a way that doesn't like impede the beauty of the card to me. I never thought I'd ever take a card that was creased, and now because of the way I'm collecting, I'm okay with creases that are not easy to see. Double D Dylan says, rest in peace, Beater Joe. Beater Joe is now Rodeo Joe. For anybody who missed the hangover from Wednesday, Beater Joe Poirot, his new name is Rodeo Joe. Steve Splenda says, all these centering cultists disgust me, standing all high and mighty on their Zion cases. I'm glad David Chase isn't here for that one. Mark says, I think we should meet for drinks at Sexy Corners. The collection firm says Evan Mathis told me. By the way, Evan Mathis, ex-NFL player, card dealer, well-known card alterer, says Evan Mathis told me he specifically sought out oversized cards, so even after trimming, they would meet the size specifications. And Dylan says, gotta just stick with what you like unless your wife tells you your cards are all off-centered. Fair comment right there. So, okay, so there we go. Whole bunch of things on that topic. We had one more. There's one other topic there. Robert, how's your time, by the way?
I'm okay. So if you want to
Okay.
go forward with another topic, happy to touch upon it.
Stick around. So. There's another topic that Robert brought, which is kind of different from all these, yet sort of similar still. I'll just present it. Josh, Joe, get ready. Want your thoughts? Chat, get ready to consider this. And I don't think it's not a brand new topic, but I don't think we've talked about it this way. And it's quite simple. He says, would fanatics take a stake in MBA grading as collectors desperately look for an alternative grader to PSA? Not because they want to, but because PSA isn't accepting their submissions at the value and bulk levels anymore. So if grading costs a minimum of $80 right now, which I believe it does, what are your options for your cards that are only worth $100 if they're graded, let's say, sort of thing? So I think it's an interesting question because very specifically, Robert, you did not say would Fanatics open up its own grading company, or would Fanatics go and try to acquire CGC or Tag Grading or any other grading company that's unowned by PSA's parent collectors. You specifically mentioned MBA. So what? Now that I've presented the topic, Robert, why are you focusing in on MBA? What would you like them to? What are you thinking, Robert?
So the thoughts, Jeremy, on it were that when I'm going on various auction sites looking at cards to buy, I know Tag and CGC have some traction in the Pokemon and TCG world, but not much in the sports card world. But I am seeing traction in the sports card world. So, and I believe that Fanatics does want to get their piece of the pie. And I thought that SGC was a preemptive move by PSA to buy and block Fanatics from making that acquisition. So I'm saying, what would Fanatics move be to get into the grading space, specifically to have a spot within the sports card world? And it seems like MBA is the solution there. So that was the reason for the thought. So it was a question. It was something that came to mind. If I was looking to buy a speculative stock that I think might go up, this would be not a don't put all your money into it, but it might be something that you put some speculative money on that type of an idea.
You want to buy futures in MBA right now, don't you? Yeah.
I might put a few bucks on it. So
yeah, I mean, listen, somebody said here, Let's Go Jordan here said, too late. Beckett was the one. I agree with you. I think the acquisition, Robert, of SGC by collectors was a preemptive move against anyone else buying them, i.e. Fanatics. I do think that was the case there. So then the question is MBA a legitimate target for Fanatics? My only reason why I don't know is because of the scaling. Like if Fanatics were to buy a grading company, they would need to scale it immediately, because right away there would be all the marketing push they would need. Fanatics Fest would be dominated by MBA or whoever they bought, and they need the graders. They would just need the personnel in place, and I don't know if MBA has that. I know that they're hiring and they're probably growing rapidly right now, so they probably are out there hiring. But are they the right target? Is somebody else the right target? Or like Let's Go Jordan said, has that ship sailed and it should have been Beckett, or it could have been Beckett, but then collectors bought them too? Maybe another preemptive strike along with picking up a wonderful brand in the hobby. So let's go to Josh and Joe. Which of you want to go first? You're both still on mute. We're going to start with you, Joe. What are your thoughts on Fanatics potentially picking up a grading company and maybe that one being MBA?
Oh, I mean, I guess I'm not totally understanding the relationship that Fanatics would have to the grading company, because they did use MBA for a while, right? At which point they transferred over to CGC when they were.
Hold on, Joe. Sorry, Joe. You're just so you know, you're talking about something completely different. You're simply talking about authenticating at Fanatics Collect. We're talking about Fanatics entering the grading space because the hobby needs another alternative. So that's that just to refocus you, if that helps at all.
No, yeah, it does. It does. But I guess I kind of see it as a bit of church and state, you know. I mean, they're already producing cards and one of the major auction houses. So to add a third cog to that just seems a little, I think it definitely has legs, Robert. I don't disagree with you that they're certainly considering it, and maybe a couple opportunities have already passed them by, and maybe the MBA ends up being the very best option that they have, and we might very well see it. I don't have a crystal ball, but for me personally, I'd prefer they just kind of stick with what they're already doing, which seems pretty gargantuan to begin with. I guess I'm just a little, I don't know, gun shy of, and I know Jeremy doesn't like the word monopolies, but you know, that's the word that comes to mind when I start, you know, hearing them taking on a grading company as well.
How about you, Joshua Adams? Any thoughts?
I think if Fanatics can make money, they'll do it. Like, they're a company that's for profit, and if it's beneficial, they'll do it, I guess. I don't really, you know, that's all I have. I don't really know much more about it.
No, it's fair. No, fair comment. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. They are in any business to make money, and if there's money to be made. But this is a case of not just like making money easily. It takes investing in order to make money down the road. They would have to invest in the scalability, the facilities, the human resources, all these things in order to get to it being profitable. Quick comment here, but Card Fuchsia says nobody has the infrastructure or the market to be worthy of buying, and that might be the case. So actually, based on the first half of 2026 grading numbers that came out from GemRate, I did some math for fun the other day. I happened to find my little graph here, and I looked at the market share that everybody has, because I've been saying, oh, PSA with its subsidiaries or its sister companies has, I think I would have 85-90% of the market. Well, PSA, when combined with BGS and SGC, only holds 77.86% of the market year to date 2026. Call it 78% of cards graded went through PSA, BGS, or SGC. Of that 78%, almost 73% is PSA. Almost 4% is BGS and 1.5% is SGC. Now, tag grading slides in there above SGC and below Beckett at 1.62%. So if collectors went and bought SGC at the time, had more than 1.53%, scaled them down to 1.53%, would tags 1.62% be enough to buy? Not for the 1.62%. For the technology, yes. Not for the 1.62%, I don't think, because when collectors went out and bought SGC when they had 7 or 8% of the market, they have then now, you know, ruined them down to 1.5% of the market. I say ruined because I got to think the people that created that company who still work there must be like, what is going on here? Unless they're just eventually going to be folded right up into PSA, which I think is when you go from 7 or 8%, I think it was, down to 1.53, there's a story. That's not just a story, that's a signal right there of what's going on. I don't think that's new news to anybody. I'm not breaking news here, guys. I'm just sharing the thoughts based on the analysis that I did. So I think it's interesting. Bob Boozle says, I would think Fanatics would not want to deal in vintage grading. I would think the same thing, Bob Boozle. Vintage grading is it's the riskiest. It's also the one that requires the most skill. I mean, you need skill to grade cards down in those 1 to 7 grades. Modern is all 8s, 9s, and 10s. It's not very hard. You don't have to be right to be good. You can just pick a grade, put it out there. Nobody cares. The hobby doesn't care. The customer is upset that they didn't get the 10 they thought they were going to get, but then that's it. They have no recourse and it's over. It takes no skill. It takes very little skill, relatively speaking, to grade an ultra modern card than it does to grade a vintage card. So I agree with the comment that with Bob Boozle, I think it was Bob Boozle's comment that I don't think fanatics would want to get into grading vintage cards. And that's what NBA does a lot of. So Robert, this is all new in my mind in the last minute here. What do you think of that potential kind of counterpoint?
I'm looking at it from the perspective that Fanatics somehow wants to get into grading sports cards. And what's the easiest way to get into it? And I know there's church and state, and as a collecting community, we don't need to agree that that should happen. There's a whole host of conflicts of interest that will take on another show unto itself and another topic. But nonetheless, I think that they want to get their hands in it. It's an opportunity to, whether it's repackaged product to sell or whatever it might be, I believe that they want to have access to grading cards right from the get-go and selling them to the hobby community.
Yeah.
And NBA is probably an easy way to get in there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, NBA has among there's a couple cohorts out there, but among one cohort, it's got a great reputation as a grader, Mike Baker himself, and who knows now how many graders they have reporting up into him. I'm sure we could find out, could maybe ask him, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think that if any grading company right now has a chance to be the next like SGC at its peak, what SGC was at its peak, I think NBA has the best potential to become to carve out that sort of share of the market. Not everyone's going to love it, but a lot of people do, and those that don't have to use it. Just like anything. Joe, Josh, anything else to say before I go to a couple more comments, guys?
Well, I'd just say, I think speed is the name of the game, at least in the auction world, getting the cards to market quickly. And that's why I know it's just authentication, but to me, that's a pretty big in-house connection they already have with CGC. So I don't know. I see them wanting to do it, as Josh said, an opportunity to make more money, but at least in lubricating the efficiency where it is now. I mean, NBA would have to really scale up. I think you already mentioned that, Jaylee, but the amount of cards that would be coming at them, because they've always offered the send away to Beckett, to PSA, but now of course a wrench has been thrown in that, and I think that's probably, I wonder if Fanatics would ever just consider like from the ground up, organically creating their own grading house, and bringing in some high end, names from PSA and or Beckett, and really, not opting out or farming it out. So anyway, interesting conversation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, good comments, Joe. Okay, I'm going to go to a few comments from the chat now, guys. And I'm going to start with this one from Daniel Brown. Off topic, but I'm going to address it. Is Jeremy, I don't know if you caught Professor Sports Cards on Tuesday. I did not. But I watched Ziggy No attempt to assassinate Chris Hoge's character. It was a sneak attack. I hope you watch and consider a ban here. Dan Brown, I will tell you that I am well aware of Ziggy's thoughts about Chris and I'm not going to concern myself about what goes on too much on other channels. But Ziggy and other people know that if you're in this chat or watching this show, that you got to respect the guests or you will be banned. I'm not going to ban for what somebody does elsewhere. And so that's it. That's all I'll say about that. And Chris is well aware of my position on that as well. Tim says, remember when these bums said PSA 9 is the same as a raw card? People say things all the time, Tim, that are their opinions, and like, who cares, man? You know, like one of the problems is that the flipper culture, and I don't mean flipper in a bad way. I'm talking about a lot of the new people in the hobby who are in it just to make a buck. That is a rule that they have in order for them to make money, and it makes sense for them. And so if it works for them, that's fine. As a collector, I don't care what anyone says about a card's value or not. So I hear what you're saying, Tim, and it can be frustrating, I guess, but who cares? Bob Boozlo says, thanks to Jeremy for agreeing with me. Wish my wife agreed with me. The collection firm said, Evan Mathis also told me that Tag was the only new grader that was scalable, which I thought was interesting. Well, that's because of the machine grading aspect, the quote unquote AI that Tag uses in their grading process. But every card is verified by human over there, and that's a big bottleneck because that does take time. So it's a tough situation, I suppose, but they are scaling and building and growing, and so they're doing just fine. Card Fuchsia says any new grading firm almost has to be AI. There is no workforce. Yeah, maybe. Tough to say. You know, when it comes to who's doing the grading and what kind of companies and whether it's robots or humans or wizards, as Ziggy likes to say, I think the simple answer for us collectors and investors is look at the card for yourself. Decide if the grade makes sense to you. We should be using the shortfalls of grading to our advantage. If you want, I think you can do that. You can use grading shortfalls to your advantage in your collection. That's what I've been doing. At least I think I'm doing it. If I'm wrong, I don't really care. I'm loving the journey. So, and by shortfalls, I mean buying under. They undergrade, they overgrade, they misgrade, they make mistakes all the time, and a lot of them are unknown mistakes that are just never brought to trial. Right, Josh? They're not brought to trial. So what that means is we have these mini side cases going on. A guy like me comes along, looks at the graded card and says, oh, they graded this a 6. Or let me use this. They graded that a 3. Looks like a 5 to me. That's a side deal. That's a side trial going on. My verdict, that card looks like a 5. It's in a 3. Seller's going to charge me 3 prices. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get a good deal on that card. And that's how I'm using the deficiencies in grading to my advantage. So just my thoughts on that. Robert, anything else from you on the topic? I mean, there's a lot, man, you open up a bit of a can of worms, all good, of course, but there was more on that bone, I think, than we might have bargained for.
Always great to have some thought-provoking discussion on it. So
absolutely. Josh or Joe, did either of you come with anything on your minds tonight that you wanted to talk about? Josh is giving me the old head shake, with the side eye. I see. Joe, how about you? I mean, you just got back from your Hawaiian vacation. I know when we were talking to David on the Hangover, he was still buying cards on vacation. While you were in Hawaii doing your surfing, enjoying the sights and the sounds, were you how much attention were you paying to buying cards on platforms and also to hobby content?
I'd say pretty much steady as she blows kind of thing. Like I didn't buy very much just because I kind of went during the work week, and I did load up a little bit for the Fanatic Sunday auction, looked at some stuff, but I'm kind of saving my pennies right now for the National. Even looking to sell a couple cards just to generate some capital. Josh doesn't know this yet, but he's going to be helping me get into one of his big Jordan buyback cards. And I'm very appreciative of that in advance. So Josh, just bring the one you're ready to part with and we'll work something out.
No problem.
And
downtown Kabumi, I'm in.
I won't have that for you, but I'll talk to you. We'll talk offline. No, and then just straight ahead with the hobby content. Always fun to listen, in the evening, and just kind of toward it's like good bedtime stories with Dylan Double D and all the clubhouse boys, and yours truly, Mr. Lee.
Love it, man. Can't wait. Okay, well, appreciate it. I'm going to do 2 more comments I want to get to. The collection firm says Alpha Investments is starting a grading company in Orlando, Florida. He has spent millions on infrastructure already. Listen, I personally think that with the right capital and time to train, that a human grading company could come in from scratch and do some damage. Again, the right amount of capital, the right type of marketing, and even the right graders and standard makers to kick it off. Because the big auction houses are not going to bring on any grading. They're not going to allow any new grading company to any card in any old grading company slab to be sold on their platform. So you would need a special reason for a Golden or an REA or even a Fanatics Collect to be willing to take on a new grading company. And for that to happen, I think it would come down to the personnel. So I'm sorry, I'm not even sure who Alpha Investments is. Maybe I know, and it's just escaping. Collection firm. Is that? I don't know who that is. So I don't know if you can share with us or what. But again, I think there's room for that. And I will put it out there right now. If anyone has $250 million to $1 billion, they're looking to start up a grading company. I will offer myself to be a part of the standards writing. Listen, I know I'm kind of volunteering something that's like, oh, who cares what you think? But if anyone cares what I think, I would love to be a part of writing the standards and the training for how to properly grade cards. Not properly, just a different way, I suppose. Collection firm says it's a huge TCG wholesaler. Okay, so people are, listen, PSA closes down their 2 biggest submission levels, I'm guessing bulk and value. That is opportunity for other companies. It's an opportunity to service that lower end. So Tim here says, this is the same. I want to come back to this comment one more time. He says, one of the dumbest takes of all time is PSA 9 is the same as raw. I agree with Tim. I agree. And here's why I agree with that comment, Tim. I don't know if this is what you're getting at or not, but this is what I'm going to get at with that comment. Want to get Robert, Joe's, and Josh's thoughts on this. So hear me out. I think it's pretty obvious, but maybe I'm wrong. My take on that comment is that you go to a show and the card is sitting raw in a vendor's showcase, and the card in the PSA 10 is $800. Let's say there's 5 comps this week. They're all around $800. Looks like it's a PSA 10. And very well might be a PSA 10. However, it's raw. It's not graded, it's raw. Vendor says, well, it'll grade a 10. Look at it. I want $800 for it. Okay, vendor, but it's not. Your card is not in a PSA holder. That is it's a different unit of inventory than if it was. It's like apples to oranges, unfortunately, but that's the case in the hobby right now. Your card that is not graded, no matter how high you think it would grade out, it's not a PSA. It might be mint, but it's not PSA 9. It might carry that condition descriptor fairly, but until it's in that slab, it's just not the same unit of inventory. So that's why I agree with Tim on this comment that saying a PSA 9 is the same as a raw card. I would say no, PSA 9 is better than a raw card. The other sort of issue with that is that you're throwing darts. Your card might be gem mint, but PSA that day might give it a 9, might give it an 8.5, or might give it a 10. So even if it is by their standards, whatever you're purporting it to be, until it's in that holder, it just isn't. It just isn't. Again, it's a different unit of inventory altogether. So my thoughts on that. But thanks for the other comment there, Tim. Anyone, Robert, Joe, Josh, do any of you have any thoughts on that? The only one off mute is Robert, so I'm going to go to you first. Robert, what are your thoughts on what I just said?
It's definitely not a 10. It should be less than a 9. But yeah, the hobby seems to be pricing raw like 9s on modern, ultra modern, and it's probably the the take that perhaps you get the uplift on a 10, and that's why it's getting the 9 pricing.
Joe, what do you think?
I'm always going to take the PSA 9. I agree with everything you guys said, but in my realm, the hitting the 10 all the time, the energy. So I'd prefer a PSA 9 in hand than the potential of a raw card.
Josh, any thoughts? Sorry, Robert, you're good?
Yeah, I would agree with Joe on that.
Josh, any thoughts?
Where did this comment come from? The 9s are. I don't understand what he's saying. Like,
well, he's basically saying that out there in the hobby wilderness, people are basically saying that if a raw card sells for $100, a PSA 9 is basically the same thing, $100.
No way. No way. Who says that? That's ridiculous.
Okay, there you go, Tim. Jim Sholey here says, Jay Lee, exactly. That's like comparing certified Toyota against uncertified Toyota. Signed, Jay Sholey. Appreciate that, Jay. I mean, but it's Bobby Light here says, how can we get PSA 9s to have value? Oh, you guys are going to love this answer I have for that. Manipulate the market. That's how you do it. You get into the market manipulation game. You want PSA 9s to have value, you got to pump them up. That's how, because the question as presented here, it's kind of like, how do we get 2s to have value? How do we get 3s to have? They have value, you guys. Bobby Light, PSA 9s have value. They do. It's just not as much as a 10, but it's more than an 8. So do you want it to be closer to 10 than it is? If you do, you got to pay more. Obviously I say manipulate the market. You guys know I'm kidding. Obviously don't do that, but pay more for them. That's how you do it. How do you get people to pay more? I don't know. The 10s have to go even higher in price for 9s to come up with them. Josh.
First of all, I want to repeat what Upstate said. Buy the card, not the grade. Who cares what the number is on a piece of plastic? But to get a 9 to have value, lots of 9s have value. There's a lot of 8s have value. So I guess I don't understand the question, I guess I would say from the beginning. Like, what does he mean 9s have value? They do. They're worth something. I don't understand the point.
Yeah. I think it's a comment that I've seen several times out there in hobby content. Mostly it's like story posts on Instagram type of thing where, there's a hashtag 9s are fine. Like everyone wants it really, Josh, guys, it really comes from the fact that everybody wants 10s. Everyone wants it's 10s or nothing, right? But I think there's value in 9s, especially when the 9s are the same as the 10s anyway.
So my hashtag is 7s are heaven. So, I'm fine with 7s.
Right.
8s are great. There you go.
Yeah. I know. I agree. I agree with all this. And I agree with Upstate. Yeah. Buy the card, not the problem is that so much of hobby narrative is driven by the flipper, the repacker, the card show content where I pay 80% on cards, I pay 90% of what? Like it's the comp economy, which is, it's not how I hobby, it's not how I vend, but it's dominating hobby culture right now. And that's where it comes from, Josh. This is not your circle of influence, Josh. This is not within, no, it's not, but it's out there. So yeah. Joe, are you wanting to jump in? No. Okay. Yep. Well, a couple comments on this part. Jesse O's card guy says the PSA 10 premium is not new. 20 years ago, I was buying BGS 95s at a fraction of the price. Upstate says flippers do not want to learn about cards. They're lazy and only care about the number on the screen and the slab. Absolutely agree with that. That's a whole different. It's not. That's not even our hobby. That's the hobby economy, and it's only the hobby ultra modern economy for the most part, right? Vintage is treated a bit differently, even at the vintage flipper level. It just moves a little because even vintage flippers know that there's a range of condition at all grade points for vintage. For modern, They're so similar because they're just made so much better. And they don't have to survive a lifetime. All they have to survive is going from pack to sleeve, pack to top loader, pack to slab. Jim Sholey says, Jeremy, why don't you start a J. Lee silver or gold or platinum sticker grading service? I'm tempted to, Jim. I am tempted to. All right. Yeah, we did that one already. Sports Card Flipper University should add this discussion to the curriculum, says Bob Boozle. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. But as Tim here says, by the grade, not the card, he's saying. I think he's kidding there. I hope you're kidding, Tim. But hey, collect, even if you're not, collect how you like. Like, I don't really care how I'm interested, but great how you collect how you want, guy. Upstate, it's the industry. The hobby is so much more than the hobby, you know? Yeah. We haven't seen foul ball tonight, but foul ball often says, even to me, he'll say, it's not a hobby to you. To which I say, well, it is a hobby to me, but it's not only a hobby to me. It's also an industry. It's also a business. It's also a passion. It's my lifestyle. It's more than just a hobby to me. It's everything. And it can be more than one thing to a bunch of us. Yeah, you're of course you're kidding. Yeah. So, okay, lots there. What's this? Card Future says modern is manipulated by industry. Vintage is manipulated by peers. Fair comment, I think. I mean, manipulated is a strong word, but manipulated isn't always a bad word. You know, like when I'm putting the dishes in the dishwasher, I'm manipulating the placement to maximize the space. Is that bad? Is that a negative connotation? I'm manipulating the real estate in my dishwasher? I don't think so. But I think I know where we're going there. So, all right, guys. Do we have any more topics, or is this going to be the first non-4-hour episode of Sports Cards Live in like 5 or 6 weeks? Because we've been going 4 hours without problem. We have no Chris Hoge tonight, by the way. He is doing 4th of July, so maybe that'll shorten it a little bit. But does anybody else have a topic? Does the chat have a Rob Rothenberg? Do you have another topic you want to? When did you start collecting, Rob? We never did your origin story. Give us a quick synopsis of your hobby history.
Great. It won't take too long. So I have a 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and I collected as a kid when I was 7, 8 years old for a couple of years. Got back in during the junk wax era for 3 years, 89 to 91-ish. But I got back in 2020 after my son got some Pokemon cards for a birthday present, and we went to a local card shop, the same one that I met you at, Jeremy, not too long ago, and wanted to buy Pokemon cards just to put together a deck because we were actually playing the game. It wasn't for collection purposes. And I got to see cards I never saw before. I got to see autos and patches and limited edition cards, and it really piqued my interest. And I thought to myself, I missed the era when Wayne Gretzky came into the market, missed the era when Michael Jordan got into the market, and I missed the era when LeBron came into the market. So I didn't want to do that again. So I had to get into the market because Zion was going to be the next GOAT. So I got back in pre-COVID and got a box of Prism hobby box and ripped that open, and that was the start of getting back into the hobby in 2020. And as I had mentioned, it's a full economic cycle going from boom. I don't know if we had a bust, but we definitely had a downturn, and again we have a boom now. So it's been a very interesting 6 years back into the hobby.
You did mention to me when we were chatting that you didn't want to miss out on the next GOAT. Can you explain that mindset and what you were thinking when you said, and who was the GOAT at the time that you were thinking of? Because this is really interesting.
It was Zion Williamson. He was going to be the next GOAT. He was extremely popular. I did take a look. His base PSA 10s are going for about $18 right now. And I did get one, and I got caught up, of course, in terms of needing to wait a year for my PSA submission on Zion to come back, and I paid $85 for the for the Zion card to get graded. So I've experienced some of the pain of learning how to collect over the 6-year period.
And now here we are today. What are you collecting now here in June or July 2026?
So I am buying quite a bit on the T206 side and trying to buy some of the rarer backs. So have a Lennox and Uzit and Hindu Brown, trying to get some Hindu Reds, drums, some of the rarer backs. It's nice to go after those and build a collection on that side. So that's on the vintage. There's a subset of 1999 Fleer. There's Shining Pulsars. It's a 15-player set, and trying to get those in relatively high grade. And if you look on eBay, they're very tough to find. So pops are like 5 or 6 for every one of those 15. So I figure that's going to take me about 10 years to complete the 15 cards there. And those are just a couple of the subsets that I'm looking at.
You mentioned like collecting through a full economic cycle. Interesting sort of way to put it, I think. Can you sort of describe that a bit more, kind of dive into what you're thinking as far as that economic cycle? And do you feel like now that you've been through what you're calling a full economic cycle, do you feel better prepared for what may come in the hobby, as far as everything in life is cyclical?
It's really interesting now. Some of the cards that I bought back in 2020, I remember they tripled in a month. And you think that's normal when you get into the hobby, and cards that you bought that you just barely received because it takes a while to get the card after you buy the card. And you think that's normal. And of course, in some cases there was a complete collapse where Ultra Modern dropped 95% in some cases, depending on the card, even 99%. So here we are, and we're going through a bit of a boom. I know I had a Mickey Mantle card that I got. When I got possession of it, I didn't like it. You talk about eye appeal. I wasn't happy with it, so I sold it, and I netted after cost 48% after holding it for 5 months. So I look at that and I say, that's probably not, it's great that it happened, but it's not normal. And we're starting to see the same things that transpired in 2020, 2021. So there's a lot of pause, a lot of thought going into putting more money into cards at these levels. It's really tough to make a decision there. So
cards are more expensive than they've ever been in many cases. And yeah, you got to really think about where you're deploying your funds these days. Joe Poirot.
I appreciate everything. Thanks for sharing all that, Robert. And I actually just sold a mantle today. I think I got about a 25% bump on it over 9 months. So not quite as well as yours. But I think the other thing is, like, the hobby's gotten smarter. During the 2020 bubble time, I think people were just coming in and throwing money around, and then everybody kind of had their behinds handed to them in one way or another, at least in some area, maybe not their whole portfolio. But I had similar elevator shaft moments with certain modern cards particularly. And then and I think collectively we all sort of started to evaluate maybe in the vein of the Pareto effect, the burrito effect, just people getting more consolidated into goats, people really being a little bit more attentive to, rarity, scarcity, float, being cognizant of the way that market manipulation can happen, just all the stuff that we've learned. And so it's in some ways, I think a more lean and mean market. Like, people are stronger in their positions. And also, it's a little bit harder to find the plays that might allow you to kind of generate capital to progress your collection forward.
Well said, Joe. Lots of good little nuggets in there. Josh Adams, any thoughts to build on or tear down?
No, it's tough out there now. It's crazy. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. This is a great show.
Have a good night. All right.
I had
Thank
one.
you.
No, wait.
No,
No,
I'm kidding.
No, that was it. Hey, where do you guys? Not that you care. I mean, I'm a Curry fan. You know this, but there's been talk about LeBron joining the Warriors. It's kind of a big story. LeBron James leaving the Lakers. Do you have a place you'd like to see him go, and/or a place you think he will end up going? Question to the panel.
I don't really care where he goes. I think he'll go to a market where he thinks he can win, probably. So where is that? I don't know where that is. The Knicks? No. Okay. The Spurs, the Pistons, the Warriors. I think the Warriors make sense in a lot of ways. I mean, it's California. Him and Steph are both in their twilight years of their career. Kind of makes sense going there, doesn't it? And but Joe, I mean, like, where do you want him to come to your Golden State Warriors?
I'm that desperate as a Warriors fan that I would take LeBron coming to us. But where do I think he'll end up? I think he'll end up either in Cleveland or Miami.
Back to his roots.
Some of what you've said, Jay Lee, makes sense, except for the fact that he has to think about sort of the curation of his legacy. And you can't really go to a team that just won the chip in the Knicks, and you can't really go to a team that just almost won the chip in the Spurs. So, he has to be a little deliberate in what he's doing, because he is interested in, I think, winning another title, but he has to do it in such a way that he's not trolled for, taking the easy way. And the Warriors might be a good fit in that regard because, old heads, with Curry and Dre and LeBron together. I mean, I don't think they would have much of a chance against the young Bucks, be it the Spurs, the Thunder, the Knicks, whomever. But I think that would be a great story if he did join up with Steph and they were able to push it to the brink.
Robert or Josh, any thoughts on the topic? Okay, I'm going to go to a comment here from Troy Coles. He said, I think we are overthinking the grading. Is it just a piece of cardboard? If the card is rare enough, condition isn't important. See PMG greens. Josh, you're nodding. Joe, you're nodding. I mean, I think Robert, what do you think? If how do you feel about that one? I lost the comment now. Dang it. What do you think of that, Robert? Go ahead.
We're paying higher values for higher grades, right? If it didn't matter, it wouldn't be a part of the whole ecosystem.
Josh?
I would say with the PMG analogy, I agree. Like Robert, if you found a brown Hindu back and it was only a 1, would you pass on it because it's only a 1, or would you grab it because you won't find one for another 7 years?
I would grab it if it's that rare.
Robert, let me ask you on that note, since I did hear way back that you are a T206 collector, what is your favorite T206 issue, excluding the Wagner? That might not even be what came to your mind, but let's just take the Wagner off the table and maybe the Plank as well. What is your favorite T206 issue?
Are you talking about player or back or both? Or
Players, fronts and backs, if you want to throw that into. I mean, obviously a big back is, Ty Cobb, Hindu, whatever, but front
sure.
side.
So Cy Young.
With glove shows, portrait.
So yeah, I'll go with the portrait. I haven't thought about specifically which one of Cy Young, but I do have a couple of them. So, and I do have one Hindu Brown, and there's only 2 of them. So happy to have that. That'll be there's only 2 Hindu Browns of that Cy Young card.
And you have one of the 2. That's crazy.
Why are we just now getting to this, Jay Lee? This man has a
This is incredible.
Cy Young, and we've been talking about Fanatics Grading Company. We should be digging into his collection.
I'm still figuring out this live stream thing, guys. Still trying to figure this thing out here. So.
It's incredible.
Okay, so we talked about that topic. There's another couple more comments that I want to talk about that can generate some conversation. First one here from Hulls Collect says, "Hi guys, why do you think set collecting is not considered cool anymore? I'm 33 and love set collecting, especially 90s sets that I was not able to afford growing up. Cheers, Andy." First of all, Andy, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. Listen, Andy, I'm 20 years older than you, and I spent a decade chasing and building sets when there were not as many options out there every year for cards. Now we have, back then you had 1 to 3 sets a year to collect, and that was all there was in the 80s and the 70s. And even into the 90s, then we have more sets available to collect. And I remember the time where it was like where the master collectors threw up their hands and says, you can't collect anything anymore. That was like almost a moment in time when, can't collect everything anymore. And that's when I shifted from being a set collector to what I'll call a flight collector, collecting, curating my own checklist from a larger one. Instead of going for all 400 cards or 600 cards, maybe I'll pick half a dozen. The other reason that I don't collect sets anymore is because, there's so many cards I do want to own that I don't want to have to put my hobby budget into players that I don't care about. And if I have to collect a set, even a 50-card set, a vintage 100-card set, I might only want 5 or 6 of those players. So why would I spend my money and my mental capacity to go buy cards of players I don't care about when there's other cards of players I do care about? So it comes down to there being so much more selection nowadays, not only in modern, but even in vintage. I know the vintage selection's always been there, but now it's easier to source because of the global economy, the internet, and all that. But listen, to say why isn't it cool anymore? I wouldn't say it's not cool anymore. If you think it's cool, it's cool. That's the bottom line right there. If you think set collecting is cool, then it is cool, and no one can take that away from you. So Josh below me loves to collect certain sets. I think it's wonderful. Is it cool? Yeah, it's cool because Josh does it. But me, I just don't want to have to pick up a card of a player because their name's on a checklist. That's why I don't do it. So what are your guys around the panel's thoughts on set? Let's start with you, Robert. Like, do you think, in your view, is set not in your opinion, but are you seeing the narrative that set collecting is not cool anymore? And what do you think about it?
I don't know if it's cool or not, but I don't see any of my peers collecting sets. It doesn't seem to be of interest. It's usually your higher end names, whether it's GOATs or Hall of Famers that they want. They don't want the common cards for their overall collection.
That's where I fall. How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you said, Jay Lee, that if that's your jam, then go for it. Don't let anybody else tell you how to collect if that, gives you satisfaction. And I've definitely had some times where I've been interested in a set or two. But yeah, I'm kind of, I hear where he's coming from. I mean, I don't know. It may be financially driven. As we know, generally speaking, sets would sell at a lower price than the individual cards massed together. And it seems like a lot of people these days are, trying to be thoughtful about how they deploy their hobby dollars. And so maybe they don't want to, one, invest money on common players, and two, go to the time. The time is kind of an opportunity cost in and of itself that it takes to track down, especially like high number stuff. Now, if you get into that, I mean, especially like some of those sets out there, like the Leaf, the 48 Leaf set, or certain high numbers in the 52 tops. Like that's just it's extremely fun and exciting to try and locate those, and create a sort of comprehensive condition way of a set, like aligning together. But I just think people are a little bit over it, but I agree with you. Like don't let somebody dictate the terms by which you participate in the hobby.
Josh, what about you?
I love set collecting. I think it's great. More people should do it. Oh boy. All right, I'm out. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. So example is 48 Leaf, since David's here. I love doing that set, but only the high numbers. The first run, like the Robinson, the Ruth, they're all a dime a dozen. But give me like the Feller, the Kell, the Page, any day. 35 Chickle is fun. Half of that set is short printed also. So give me like a Nick Nikolai from 35 Chickle all day. He's a common guy, college player, but it's a short print. Good luck finding him. The hunt is 90% of the fun for me. I love chasing it down.
Well, and here, Jim says, Jeremy, some of the short print high numbers to complete a set are almost impossible. Yeah, that gets a lot of your guys' juices flowing. For me, that's another reason not to do it. Now I got to go pay extra for names I don't care about because they're impossible. Like that does not, for me as a collector, just because it's rare doesn't mean I have to have it. That actually incentivizes me more and reaffirms my approach not to collect the 48 Leaf set, not to collect the high number Topps baseball sets from all the years that they had high numbers. Just doesn't, again, not only do I not want to chase these players if they're rarer because they're high numbers, that just costs me even more money. I especially don't want to do it. I'll be happy to celebrate when my friends Josh and David complete theirs because I know both of you guys are doing that. I'll be very happy for both of you, and I'll celebrate it, and I'll encourage you. Doesn't have to be for me as well. It just isn't for me. So that Jim, that's my sort of thoughts on that one. On that topic. David, I don't know how long you just got, by the way, David just joined us back here in the studio. He's back on the screen. You were at the fireworks. You're back. Have you heard any of the shows or anything you wanted to, are you just here to hang out, or is there anything you actually want to, that you heard that you wanted to, that you could address before I bring on another comment?
I'm here to hang out, but I did hear this last conversation that you were having about set collecting. And I'm not collecting the Leaf set. I was collecting the Hall of Famers from there. I was kind of doing a version of flight collecting there. And it's interesting because, we were just saying that Josh is a set collector. But Josh, you just mentioned that you're really only into the short prints. You're not into the whole set, right?
Correct. Yeah, I want half of the set. So I'm like a half set collector. I'm a fraud. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but that even shows, right, that we don't always need all of the common cards, some of us, to make us happy, and just put our resources sometimes in the cards that make us feel happier. But I get it. My set collecting friends, my dad's a set collector. It gamifies the hobby. To say it's cool or not cool, who cares? Okay, we're all not cool because we're baseball card nerds and we love it. But if it's fun for you to have a goal and to get a set and feel that satisfaction for completing it, good for you. I'm proud for you, and I'm proud for my friends that are doing it.
Absolutely agree. There are a couple of comments here. Where was here? Jim defines as Jeremy's flights are just another version of the term set. Well, there's a difference though there, Jim. The flight is a subsection or it's a carve out from the overall set. A set to me implies checklist, and that checklist has every card listed. That's a set. I take that checklist and I carve out the 4, 5, 6 cards I want from that set, and that becomes the flight. And it's not a set because no one else knows about it except me, really. But it's my set. So in a way, I guess I'm trying to see the similarity, and maybe that's it. So okay, that's the discussion around set collecting not being cool or still being cool. Here's one from Area 51. Says, Jeremy Lee, your thoughts on CGC grading restored cards like the Honus Wagner. Now, this came up earlier on in the episode, unbeknownst to me before tonight. that CGC was considering, maybe I heard this actually, but CGC was considering grading cards and calling them restored, similar to the way you sometimes see altered on a PSA slab or an SGC slab, but now calling them restored. And I think that this is a great move because, like, I think it's a great move. I don't know if it's going to be effective though, so maybe it's not a great move, but I like it because if it were to work perfectly, which it wouldn't, but if it were to work perfectly, then every card that was restored and everybody submitting a restored card because they love the artistry of owning a card spa, that if they want to do that, they now have somewhere to send their card, which should be graded for what it is and slabbed for what it is as a restored card. So I like that idea. The problem is that, well, you're going to try to get it through to a regular numerical grade. And if it doesn't numerical grade, then you're going to maybe resubmit it as a restored card to get it in a slab. And I don't think there's anything wrong with collecting cards that are restored. If you want to, go for it. Not for me, but you might want to, the odd 52 tops mantle, I probably would be okay with, because probably not going to buy a regular one anyway. But so I don't know, Area 51, I think it's got its pros and I think it's got its cons. But the real question is, the people who are restoring cards, are they even going to bother with it, or are they just going to try to send them through the regular? What do you guys think about this? I feel like we maybe talked about it earlier, but before Josh and Joe were on, I don't remember. David, did this come up tonight, or Robert? If it did or didn't, no. So anyone want to kind of address this first? And you don't have to address this at all. If you do, just put up your hand if you want to talk to this. If you don't, I'm going to go to the next comment. Okay, David, I saw your hand first. Go ahead, then we'll go to Joe.
I actually just sent you an email, Jeremy, while we were talking. I remember last year, I wasn't in Strongsville, but they had a Wagner that was a PSA slabbed Wagner last year in Strongsville that they were showing at Mile High. And it actually showed restored on the PSA flip. So PSA in certain circumstances is actually showing a restored copy also. I think it's very rare. I think they're only doing it on specific cards. I just sent you, Jeremy, in your email, the website that is showing that restored flip. But so it is sometimes happening. Yep.
I got it right here. I've never seen, I've never seen this before. This card, now it's coming back to me. I remember seeing this card like yesterday. And this is a PSA slab of a T206 Sweet Cap Honus Wagner with restored in brackets. This card, like, didn't we not see this card sell last year, or was it even earlier this year with this same? So the fact that I love that they put restored on there, by the way. I think that's really cool that they have it there. To me, that fixes a lot of problems. If PSA would just, like, if I bought a card raw and I didn't know it was restored and I sent it in for grading, don't just send it back to me. Slab it as restored. I'm okay with that. I like that. Okay, Joe, you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, my question around this, because I feel like I've owned cards that have been deemed altered that were attempted to be restored. And so my question would just be, what qualifies a card for being restored versus altered? Maybe it's, you're submitting it very consciously, like letting the grading company know, like, I know this, this has been, or maybe it's a good alteration, right? It's an alteration that's done in a spirit of kind of uplifting the card and not necessarily sort of supporting what the card is, as opposed to trying to make the card look better than it is. I don't know. I don't know what the sort of gestalt of a grading house would be around altered versus restored.
I don't know either. Anyone else have any thoughts? Put up, yeah, Josh?
Was the restoration on this that they put the back on it, or was part of the top? What was the restoration, if you recall, David, if you know?
It was a lot. Like I remember seeing what this card looked like previously. It was the front and the back. It was a complete mess before. I think that color might have even been out.
Yeah, the Frankenstein one. Yes, totally. Yes. I remember this one. Yes. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think it's cool if they mark it restored, right? I'd buy a card that said restored on it if it's disclosed. I think that's all right.
But I also agree with all of you is that how often do we see that, right? I've never seen that except for this card. So
Same.
I don't know if this was a one-off scenario because it's a Wagner and they did this as like a favor, or maybe everyone who's trying to submit restored cards are trying to get it through on PSA and they're not marking it as, please mark this as restored on the flip. I'm guessing very few amount of people write that on there. And I don't know if you can do that and it will show restored. It's a good question.
Josh?
There's a Just So Tobacco cabinet that was restored also that has restored on the flip. It's about 10 years old. I'm going to find it for you because now I want to find it. But it was at auction around the National about 10 years ago. And it was awesome. I think it was either King Kelly or Cy Young, but it was restored. It was a one only, like top one. So
is that an important card, Josh?
Yeah, yeah, it's like a cabinet card. It's like an 8x10. Just So Tobacco is pretty hard to find in any issue. And
so maybe that becomes the metric
Right.
is if it's an important enough card in the hobby where we want to, like Picasso, a restored Picasso, we want it to be in circulation. We want to acknowledge what it is. Maybe that's where they would deem
100%.
Maybe there should be a list of cards that are eligible for that, like just certain ones. Seriously, like I don't know how you make that list, but maybe that's the direction that it could go on. It could go through. Okay, back to some comments here. Carl from Oz loves the show. If I'd ever have him on, he'd be honored. Carl, send me an email. Happy to get to know you a little bit better. We've never really spoken in person or on video, but we can definitely start there. Bob Boozle says restored is the cute way to say altered. Yeah, no doubt. Jim says, I read today that Steve Grad is launching his own autograph authentication service. Is this true? And do you have any thoughts on that? I believe it is true. I talked to Steve the other day. We're going to get him back on the show soon. He hasn't been on in years, but he's been on a few times. And we're going to get him back on here at some point. We'll hear from him directly. Upstate says PSA altered means it's just reporting the story of the card. It's up to the hobby and the market to set the value on it. PSA altered means it's just reporting on the story of the card. I don't understand that, David. I don't think they're telling you much. They say it's altered, but they don't tell you really anything about it. So I'm not following the comment. If you can explain a bit better. Desert Shield Sniper says, I think it's ridiculous that Ken Kendrick, who owns the Diamondbacks and has probably the best collection in the world, value-wise. I think mine's better, but his is probably worth more. says he says, I think it's ridiculous. Ken Kendrick has accepted his Wagner to be trimmed, but yet on the PSA website, it is still an 8. I agree, Desert Shield Sniper. I think that this is one of the biggest it's one of the biggest obvious things that is just wrong. And I think it's got to do with discussions that have been happening between the senior people at the PSA and Ken Kendrick. I mean, how else could it not? I mean, I don't understand why hasn't been decertified. Josh.
I believe it's also the only baseball card ever listed in a plea agreement in court where the parties agreed and admitted that the card was trimmed. It's in Mastro's plea agreement. And I think someone mentioned a long time ago, Kendrick knows of that, but he just likes the aura of the card itself.
I think the PSA, I forget the exact story and it's all hearsay, I'm sure, but my general understanding is that they would like to correct that, but he won't. He wants to keep it as it is. He doesn't care. And I completely think he's in his right to not have to give it back, Ken Kendrick.
Well, I have another question. And I don't know if anyone can answer this, but, PSA has been known lately to decertify cards on their own without the consent of the owner. So why have they not done it here if they wanted to get it back?
Exactly.
I mean, I have thoughts, but that's for another topic, and I won't bring them up today.
I exactly agree with that. Joe. Sorry, Josh. Foul Ball. Good evening. Did you miss anything, guys? Okay, so we're gonna start the show over again and go through it from the beginning, so we can fill in Foul Ball. What? Just kidding, Foul Ball. Welcome back to the welcome. I know your name came up earlier, Foul Ball. I brought you up when I said, I don't think we've heard from Foul Ball yet, but we talked about you earlier. All good, of course. Not Yelia says, Jay Lee, did anyone get back to your request about the collectible app experience? Oh yeah, lots of people did. Lots of people did. So what Yelia is asking me about here is that Collectible was a fractional ownership platform that was in business from about 2021 or 2 until about 2023, couple years. And they were offering assets at IPO. They were fractionalized. You could buy shares in these assets, whether it was a Jordan rookie or a pair of his sneakers. You could buy these things. And a whole bunch of this was all under. This was all under like the regulation of the one of the Securities Commission sort of thing. And the company, I forget exactly what happened, but it didn't last and it was sold. And a lot of people are out the money. And the assets of the company are out there. They're currently on preview at Heritage Auctions. Heritage Auctions has taken them on to sell them for the person who's been out there trying to sell them privately, very clandestine-like, under NDA. They were offered to certain people out there under NDA, so whoever owns them, I actually know his name, and I've talked to a lot of people this week about this situation. We're gonna have some people on the show next Saturday to talk about it. We're probably going to have a leaner panel during that discussion, just so you guys all know that. But basically, there's a lot of people out there who feel they have rights to the value in these cards. And the guy who bought the company has apparently every legal right to do what he's doing with them to try and sell them. But he's also obligated to pay out the fractional owners. And there's a lot of skepticism as to whether or not he will do that. And I've talked to a lot of people who are close to the situation this past week, and we're going to get a handful of them on the show next Saturday to talk about it. But the biggest thing right now is I think people need to know is that these items are being offered by Heritage Auctions. By the way, another very well-known significant auction company in our space rejected them, did not want to have anything to do with these assets, with these items, did not want to get involved in this issue. Paul Lesko's on the case as well, by the way. Paul Lesko has been hired by some people to go after this guy or whatever. I don't know exactly what that case is. Paul's unable to join us next Saturday, unfortunately, but I'm going to try and have a conversation with him ahead of time. But again, Heritage took them on. And Heritage is within their legal right to do so, is my understanding. But I think the hobby has an issue with any auction company selling these while there's people out there who are likely their customers who are being left holding a bag, an empty bag, that is. So we're going to talk about that. The auction company that rejected them, I've spoken to a person from that company, and they are currently undecided if they're going to come on the show next Saturday. So we'll see if they decide. And that'll be interesting. But, and listen, why do I care? Why do I care? Well, two reasons. Number one, Collectible hired me in, I think it was 2021. Joe, you might remember better than I do when this happened. But Collectible hired me. They saw what I was doing. They said, hey, we like what you're doing. We'd like you to do a show for us and just do a live show and talk about these items coming to market. I said, okay, great. Let's do it. So I did, I think, 60 episodes over a course of about, I don't know, maybe a year and a quarter or so. And then they stopped. Little did I know, but they went out of business. Little did I know what was going on at the time, but they ended up having to sell the company to this guy who's out there trying to sell the items now. And so I care because of that, because I was helping promote them through my through my channel. And so I want to see if I can help make right or if not make it right, just help spread the word of what's going on. So anyone who may not know can get in line, call a lawyer, do what they have to do. So that's why I care. But I care for one other reason, which is that I had a friend who had an item that they consigned to Collectible. and I haven't talked to this person in a while, but I don't know that they got made whole. So the item that they sent in, I don't know that they ever got any money for it or any securities for it. So I was told just the other day that everybody got the security, like the shares, and if they are sold, they'll get their money, but I don't know for sure. So I care because of a couple of reasons. I care for the hobby, and so I want to bring attention to this, and I want to do what I can to bring, hopefully by bringing some attention to it, some people who are holding who feel like they might be left holding the bag. And if this guy who owns the items now is trying to sell them, just keeps all the money for himself, I want to try and disincentivize that from happening. And if I can, in this small little platform that we have here on Sports Cards Live. So that's it. Yeah. Anything else? Josh, you look, I don't know if you're frozen or if you're just mystified over there. So now that we got that, I don't have no more real comments I'm seeing that I'm going to address right now. So we can kind of lean towards wrapping up. Robert, anything else? And Robert, I haven't checked. If you got to go, I know we're holding you probably an hour and a half longer than intended, but how's your time? Are you still good, or we're going to wrap up anyway? But
I'm still good. My wife gave me the whole evening to be on here, so we're good from that perspective. Nothing else. You touched upon all the points that I
think we got through our notes, right? Joe, David, or Josh, any comments on this collectible issue, which we'll talk about more next week? Any other comments before we start to wrap this up, fellas? Joe, how about you?
I don't know. It's not really connected, but I just wanted to acknowledge, I thought you guys earlier in the show made a really interesting point about the PSA, potential, you want to use the word liability, but responsibility, let's say, for if and when we were to learn that so many cards might have been slabbed in ways that upon second thought, I thought, I just saw an ad for the Odyssey. Matt Damon's playing Odysseus as one of my favorite, epics, and Achilles has an Achilles heel, right? Like if you remember, he's kind of dipped in this impending run. Maybe that is somebody made that comment. Maybe that is the Achilles heel of PSA.
Maybe. David Chase, any final comments?
I love this panel. It was really nice meeting you, Robert, also.
Pleasure meeting you too.
Yeah, and I hope that you guys used Joe's new nickname, Rodeo Joe, on this episode.
We
I
did.
miss that part? Okay, good.
Did.
Just want to make sure. I don't know much about the conversation that you were just having with this fractional shares. I just really hope that the people that were screwed over get paid back, and I hope that us talking about it prior to the auction happening could maybe push the auction house or push authorities to help us get there so these people can get paid, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did send an email to two of the senior people at Heritage with some questions, and I believe I offered to come on the show and talk about how they decided to and why they decided to take these items on in light of what's gone on. I haven't heard back from them. I thought we were going to talk about it tonight. So I actually said, if I could hear back from you by Thursday, about 7:00 Eastern, that'd be great. Never heard back from them. I doubt I will at this point, but we're going to go ahead and talk about this at length next Saturday and hear from a whole bunch of people, including some people who are left holding a bag. I've got a whole bunch. There are some people who do want to have their thoughts put out there, but anonymously, which I'm going to obviously respect. There's some people who are involved in legal proceedings with the current owner of the company or the company, and they don't want to jeopardize that, so they will be kept anonymous. And I believe Darren Ravel, who's done a lot of research into this, is going to be joining us. He's confirmed to join us next Saturday and share the results of his investigative journalism into it as well. So it's going to be a good discussion. David, was that your hand that just went up?
Yeah. I was just going to ask Josh Adams, who owns an auction house. What a weird situation that would be, huh, Josh? If somebody came to you that had an amazing collection to go into an auction that had some weird backstory to it. Like, I would love to hear what your thoughts are about a story like that.
Yeah, that'd be weird. I would say if they can show that, someone's got a rightful claim to it, you have to pull the stuff to avoid any legal proceedings. So
What if they have the full legal ability to sell the items, but they also have the obligation to take the proceeds you send them and do something with them, and you have no control over that.
Well, then they don't have the full legal authority to sell the items then.
No, they have the legal authority to sell the items, but what they do with they have the legal requirement to take those proceeds and distribute them, but you have no control whether or not they will meet those legal obligations. And you doubt they will. Let's say you doubt they will.
If I'm not a party to any sort of agreement, I have no legal obligation to do anything in that situation.
So you would reject them or you would accept them?
That's a good question, and thanks for putting me on the spot. I would say, I don't know, from a public sort of like facing, marketing thing, you would probably say no. I'm not going to take these, because then you want that heat on you from people who are like, this guy knew I was going to get screwed and still did it anyway. So, yeah, I probably would reject him just from that, public relations standpoint.
That's what I would do. I would reject them outright if I owned an auction company, and fellow collectors of the community, maybe even my customers, are left holding that bag. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to help facilitate the seller not doing what he's supposed to do with those proceeds. But you don't know he might do the right thing also, but apparently there's a lot of skepticism as to whether or not that will happen. And that's where, if you are aware of that skepticism, why take the chance, I would think. So it's tough. Not Yelia says, aren't some shareholders incentivized to shill the auction and challenge its integrity? Well, I don't know if it's shilling if you own a small percent of the item. I don't know if it is or isn't. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but if you win, you have to pay for the whole thing. You have to buy the whole item. And you've already paid for it partially. Josh?
Yeah, I would say you're incentivized not to do that, because then if you wind up winning it, you're like shooting yourself in the foot. So
yeah, you're just helping the enemy in that case, really.
Right.
So, Flint Hall says, imagine needing your wife's permission to talk cards with friends. Imagine having a wife, Flint Hall.
Yeah. Flint, we'll tell you what it's like. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Are we good? Anyone else have anything else to say tonight? Otherwise, we're moving into the overtime stuff. I got to tell you, I'm showing 395 people here with us right now. A big night on Twitter, 250 on Twitter as we speak. So a big shout out to the Twitter crowd. Thank you for joining us. Of course, YouTube and everyone there. And if you're listening to this on podcast in the days ahead, happy to have you all along for the ride as well. As mentioned, you're going to definitely want to tune in to Sports Cards Live next Saturday. Absolutely. It's going to be great. Tomorrow night, I'm back here on the channel and on Fanatics Live in Collect Originals with the weekly auction ending watch party. And I'll be back on Thursday for the Hunt exclusive on Fanatics Collect in the Collect Originals section. We've got, what else we got going on? Lots going on right now.
Steve Taft. I'm really looking forward to your Steve Taft interview.
Thank you, Joe. That's what else we have going on. My discussion with Steve Taft will drop here on the channel on Monday, so 2 days from now. And if you've not yet watched my discussion with Joe Hollywood, that dropped last Monday. That is also available on the channel for viewing, not in the live section, just in the videos section, guys. You can also, if you have taken the Hobby Spectrum assessment but not looked at your result in a while, your profile is now expanded to include your how you dip your toes into the other archetypes, which just dropped the other day. I'm going to show it on the screen again right here. This guy, Jay, you see this little graph right there? This guy is a nostalgic. That's the big blue bar on the bar graph, but he also is a little bit of a purist and a precisionist, a little bit of a hybrid, and a very little bit also of a builder. So an expanded profile for your hobby spectrum identity, if you will. Hobbyspectrum.com. We have 935 people on the directory right now, and some, as I've been teasing, some features coming that will be announced and dropped just ahead of the national here. So check that out if you haven't yet. It's free and easy to do. Simon466 dropped a video the other day showing him taking the assessment. So check that out too if you want. I want to thank Simon for doing that video. Thank you, Yankees fan, and thank you, Bob Boozle. Joe Poirot, sorry.
No, I mean, I'm just getting texts from people that are just arriving from their fireworks viewing, and they're hoping we can just start the show from the beginning, and we can just like do a whole nother one. You ready for another 3 or 4 hours? Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I can hear. Here. We can start right from the top again, you guys. Right from the top. No, we're gonna wrap this one up though. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been saying we're gonna wrap up for about 50 minutes now. We just tend to keep on going. But Robert, want to thank you for joining us. First time on the show. It's been great having you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your inputs. Midlife Greg says, give the people what they want. Guys, my daughter's going to sleepaway camp for 2 weeks tomorrow morning. We have to be at the drop off early. So I need to make sure I get some sleep tonight. I want to be, got to do that in the morning. It's going to be I sleep in usually, so because I'm up late. But yeah, Robert, thanks again for joining. Hope you had a good time, buddy, or what?
Jeremy, this was it was like a dream come true. Actually, it was great to be on here and great to meet you guys. I listen to the show every week, either on YouTube or on podcast. Coming home from work every day. I typically am not in the chat because I'm not watching live, but it's been a real honor to be on the show with you guys, and appreciate you having me on and welcome me to the fold. Thank you.
Glad it worked out, Robert. It's been great having you. So glad you came. Thank you for bringing talk. And guys, by the way, Robert didn't just show up. He sent me a 1.5 page document with like some ideas for things to talk about, some origin story notes. Great, made my job a lot easier. So thank you, Robert, for that. Really, that attention to detail, if you will. Joe and David, welcome back, both of you, from your Hawaiian vacations and back here. Yeah, Joe's got the shirt on. Josh, always great having you on the show as usual. We're gonna have The Hangover. We'll be recording that in the next 72 hours to drop on Wednesday. So keep your eyes open for that, guys, exclusively on the Sports Card Clubhouse YouTube channel, where we are joined by several other wonderful content creators. So definitely check that out. That's it, guys. Are we good? Everyone give me a good nod. We're good? Yeah, we're good. Except for David wants to keep going on. Guys, thank you to the chat. Thank you to the panel. Robert, it's up to you. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be a part of this. But here for July the 4th, Independence Day, 4th of July in the United States. Happy Independence Day to all of our American friends. Here on this day, this episode of Sports Cards Live, we're going to start with you, Joe, is now
over.
Josh.
Over.
David.
Over.
Robert.
Over.
And with that, stay right there, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in and being a part of the Sports Cards Live community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most of all, keep collecting. More great content to come. Sports Cards is a lifestyle.